Welcome, dear listener, to Monk's Temple. Please, make yourself comfortable. There is no need to sit in any special way. You may close your eyes, or leave them softly open, resting on a gentle spot. Tonight, we are not here to learn rules, or to memorize doctrines. We are here to listen to the quiet power you have carried with you since you first learned to shape sound into meaning. It is a power so familiar, so daily, that its true nature often goes unseen, like the air in your lungs or the beat of your own heart. It is the power of speech. Of words. Not just the words you say to others, but the constant, whispering stream of words you say to yourself, the silent conversation that narrates your world from morning until night. Imagine, if you will, that every word you speak is not merely a sound that vanishes into silence. Imagine instead that it is a living seed. A tiny, potent capsule of life force. When you speak, you are not just making noise. You are planting. You are taking these seeds from the storehouse of your mind and heart, and you are scattering them into the world, into the ears of others, into the atmosphere of a room, and most importantly, into the deep, fertile soil of your own subconscious. These seeds do not die. They may lie dormant for a season, for years, for decades. But they are alive. And one day, when the conditions are right, a certain look, a particular tone of voice, a moment of stress or joy, they will sprout. They will grow. And you will find yourself standing in a forest of your own making. A forest of connection, of beauty, of understanding, or a tangled thicket of misunderstanding, of resentment, of loneliness. You will be walking through a landscape built, branch by branch and leaf by leaf, from the seeds of your own past words. This is not a metaphor. This is a law of nature, as real as gravity. The Buddha called it karma. And he taught that we create more of this karma, more of our future reality, through our speech than through any other action. Tonight, we will wander through stories. These are lamps lit in different corners of the human experience, across time and across the globe. They are not my stories to give you, but mirrors to hold up. In them, you may recognize something of your own life, your own voice. There is nothing you need to do but listen. Let your attention be soft. If it drifts, guide it back gently, as you would guide a child's hand. If you fall asleep, let these words become the landscape of your dreams. The understanding will work in its own way, in its own time. Let us begin our journey in a place of immense, dry silence. In the stark, beautiful deserts of Oman, where water is more precious than gold, there was an ancient system of irrigation called affluent. These are channels, some underground, some open, that bring water from distant springs to villages and date palm groves. The man in charge of a phalage is called the wakal. He is the water keeper. His word is law, for he decides when each farmer gets his share of the life-giving flow. His judgments must be flawless, for a mistake means a family's crops wither and die. There was once a young, ambitious wakal named Khalid. He was proud of his precision. He measured time with a water clock, dividing it with mathematical certainty. He spoke little, and his words were like his water allocations, precise, sharp, and final. He saw his role as one of pure logistics. One year, a terrible drought struck. The spring slowed to a trickle. There was not enough water for all. Khalid made his calculations and delivered the news. The farthest groves, those of old man Yusuf, would receive no water that cycle. It was the logical decision. Yusuf's grove was small, his family tiny. The water would be better used closer to the village to save the larger harvests. He went to tell Yusuf. He stated the facts, clear and cold as mountain runoff. Your allocation is 0. The system cannot support you this season. Yusuf, his face lined like the cracked earth, did not argue. He simply looked at Khalid and said, I understand the measure of water, Wakil. But have you measured the silence that will grow in the place of my children's laughter at the harvest? Have you measured the bitterness that will take root where my gratitude once grew? You speak of water as a quantity. I hear you. But you have not spoken to the thirst of the heart. That thirst, once created, is much harder to quench. Yusuf turned and walked back to his silent, waiting trees. Khalid stood frozen. The old man's words were not an insult. They were a different kind of measurement. They measured consequences Khalid had never factored into his equations. He had spoken words that were factually true, administratively correct. But they were words that would create a desert of the spirit within his own community. That night, Khalid did not sleep. He walked the Falaj channels under the stars. He realized he had been a keeper of liquid, but not a keeper of life. Life required more than H2O. It required dignity. It required hope. The next morning, he gathered the village. He did not reverse his decision, the water was still scarce. But he spoke differently. He explained the crisis with humility, not cold authority. He acknowledged Yusuf's sacrifice before the entire community. He promised that when the water returned, Yusuf's grove would be first. And then, he did something unprecedented. He asked for volunteers to share from their own family's personal water stores, just a cup a day. To keep Yusuf's youngest, most precious date palm alive. Not for the fruit, but as a symbol. A symbol that the community was one body. The response was immediate. Dozens offered. Yusuf's single palm was saved. More importantly, the community bond was strengthened, not broken, by the drought. Khalid learned that his most important tool was not the water clock, but his own voice. He could use it to deliver a death sentence, or to orchestrate a shared act of life. The words he chose would determine whether the drought created scarcity or solidarity. The Buddha taught that speech should be true and beneficial. Khalid's initial words were true, but they were not beneficial. They would have caused harm. His later words were also true, but they were wrapped in humility, community, and respect. They were beneficial. They healed rather than harmed. He learned that before speaking, especially when speaking hard truths, we must ask, is this merely true? Or is it both true and helpful? Will these words irrigate hearts, or will they create a deeper, spiritual drought? Your voice, too, is a wakil. It allocates the water of connection, of dignity, of hope. What are you channeling with your words? If the journey we are beginning together speaks to you, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. Your subscription is like a quiet vote for more stories, more pauses, more space for this kind of reflection in a noisy world. It helps this channel grow, and it connects our little community of listeners. Thank you. Now, let us travel from the desert to the misty, cobblestone streets of Prague. In a small workshop nestled in the shadow of the astronomical clock, lived an old clockmaker named Emil. His life was dedicated to repair. Not just any repair, but the restoration of antique timepieces, complex, delicate machines with hundreds of tiny, interlocking parts. He was known for his magic touch. Clocks that had been silent for a century would tick again under his care. A young apprentice, Lena, was struggling. She was brilliant but impatient. She would force gears, sigh in frustration, and mutter harsh criticisms at herself. Stupid fingers. Why can't I get this? This is hopeless. One afternoon, as she cursed over a stubborn mainspring, Emil came and sat beside her. He didn't take the tools from her. Instead, he began to speak, his voice as soft and steady as a pendulum swing. "You are speaking to the clock," he said. Lena frowned. "What? No, I'm not. I'm just frustrated." "Ah," Emil said. "But you are. Listen. When you say stupid and hopeless, who do you think is hearing those words? You are. And the clock is made of metal and glass, but it is in your hands. Your hands hear your words. They become tense. They lose their sensitivity. They become stupid because you have told them they are. You are not fixing a clock. You are in a relationship with it. And you are beginning that relationship by insulting your partner." He took her hand, which was clenched tight around a screwdriver. Gently, he pried her fingers open. "Now," he said, "let us introduce ourselves properly. This is the LeCoultre caliber 70. It was made in 1932 by a craftsman named Henri. He had a slight tremor in his left hand, which is why this bridge is filed ever so subtly on one side. He was not stupid. He was ingenious, adapting to his own nature. Your job is not to conquer the clock. Your job is to listen to Henri. To understand his conversation with time. Your words should be questions, not insults. How do you fit, little gear? What are you trying to tell me? Where is the resistance coming from?" He guided her hand back to the work. "Speak to the mechanism with respect. Speak to your own hands with encouragement. Say, we can find the way. We can be patient. The metal will not hear the words, but the spirit in which you work will change. Your hands will become intelligent again. They will feel the solution." Lena, skeptical but willing, tried. Instead of cursing, she whispered, "Okay, let's see, where do you want to go?" She slowed down. Her breathing eased. And miraculously, the mainspring settled into its barrel with a smooth, satisfying click. Emil smiled. "See? You were not fighting the clock. You were fighting yourself. The words you use inside your mind are the tools you give to your own spirit. A spirit armed with stupid and hopeless has only blunt, broken tools. A spirit armed with curiosity and patience has precision instruments. This is perhaps the most intimate arena of speech, the dialogue within. The Buddha taught that the mind is the forerunner of all things. The silent speech in your mind is the blueprint your actions will follow." Emil taught Lena that the quality of her internal narration directly shaped the quality of her work in the world. She was not just repairing a clock, she was practicing a form of inner kintsugi, using the gold of respectful attention to mend her own fractured confidence. Every time you criticize yourself harshly, you are not being honest, you are handing a sledgehammer to your own hands and asking them to perform surgery. Change the inner dialogue, and you change the hands, the heart, and the life that flows from them. Let us cross the world again, to the serene stillness of a temple garden in Kyoto. There was a gatekeeper, an elderly woman named Satoko, whose role was to welcome visitors to the temple grounds. It was a simple task, but she performed it with extraordinary presence. She would bow deeply, her movement a silent poem, and offer a single, specific phrase to each person who entered. To a harried businessman checking his phone, she might say softly, "The maple leaves are just beginning to turn. They are a slow fire." Her words would pull his eyes upward from his screen to the smoldering reds in the trees. To a group of chattering schoolchildren, she would say, "Listen for the stone's answer under your feet." They would hush, trying to hear the sound of their own footsteps on the gravel path. To a woman with tears barely held back, Satoko would simply bow and say, "The moss here drinks tears and turns them into green," offering a kind of permission for her sorrow, framing it as part of the garden's ecology. She never gave the same greeting twice. She looked, she listened, and she offered a phrase that was like a key, meant to unlock a particular door in the visitor's perception. A young monk once asked her the secret of her greetings. "How do you know what to say?" Satoko replied, "I do not know what to say until I see who is arriving. My job is not to repeat a welcome. My job is to see the dust on their journey, and to offer a phrase that is like a soft cloth. For some, the dust is hurry. For others, it is noise. For others, it is grief. I simply name something true about the garden that will help wipe that particular dust away, if only for a moment. I am not speaking to their personality. I am speaking to their need, which is always clear if you look with quiet eyes." She continued, "Most people speak to the mask, to the role, to the story the person is telling about themselves. I try to speak to the weather inside them. A phrase can be a small, gentle wind that changes the inner climate." Satoko embodied the Buddha's teaching of skillful means, upaya. Right speech is not a one-size-fits-all greeting. It is adaptive. It meets the listener where they are. It addresses the unspoken need. Satoko's words were beneficial, timely, truthful, and kind, all the qualities of well-spoken words. She understood that speech is not about broadcasting your own thoughts, it is about offering a gift that fits the recipient's unseen shape. Her greetings were acts of healing attention, miniature meditations delivered in a sentence. She reminds us that before we speak, we can ask, am I speaking to the mask, or to the human being behind it? What is the weather in this person, and can my words be a gentle, clearing breeze? We have only just begun. We have visited a desert, a clockmaker's workshop, and a temple gate. In each, we have seen the same truth: words are not mere sounds. They are actions. They are seeds. They are tools. They are irrigation, they are repair, they are welcome. Let us pause here, and let these first seeds settle into the soil of your awareness. Let us continue our journey, leaving the temple gate of Kyoto behind, and allowing its quiet lesson to settle within us. We carry forward the understanding that our words can be like a soft cloth for the dust of another's journey. Now, let us venture into a landscape where words are not spoken at all, but where their absence speaks volumes. On a remote, wind-scoured island off the coast of Newfoundland, there stood a lighthouse. Its keeper, an old man named Alistair, lived there alone for decades. His only regular contact with the world was the supply boat that came every 6 weeks. Alistair kept a logbook. It was not an official record of weather or ship sightings, though it contained those things. It was a personal log. But he wrote in it in a unique way. He never wrote about his feelings of loneliness, or his frustrations with the storms. Instead, he wrote detailed, meticulous descriptions of what he saw. On a day when the isolation felt crushing, he might write, September 14, 3:17 p.m. A single northern gannet returned to the same rock for the 3rd day. It preened its left wing for exactly 12 minutes. The sun caught the white feathers so they looked like chips of lightning. The sea behind it was the color of old bruises. On a day of raging storm, he wrote, November 22nd. The wind is not a sound but a pressure in the ears. The spray hits the lantern room glass not as drops but as solid, horizontal sheets. At 2 a.m., in a lull, I saw one star. Just one. It held its place for 7 minutes before the clouds swallowed it again. A young relief keeper, spending a month on the island while Alistair visited the mainland, discovered this log. He expected self-pity, existential musings. He found instead a breathtaking archive of attention. He asked Alistair about it when he returned. Why only what you see? Why not what you feel? Alistair refilled his pipe, looking out at the endless grey sea. Because, lad, he said, what I feel is often just the same old weather inside, loneliness, impatience, worry. It's boring. It doesn't change. But what is out there, he gestured with the pipe stem, is infinitely new. The play of light on a bird's wing. The specific sound of a particular wave. If I wrote, I am lonely, I would just be watering that seed. I'd make the loneliness bigger, more real. But if I write, the gannet preened for 12 minutes, I am watering my attention. I am making the world bigger. The loneliness is still there, but it's just a small stone in a vast, beautiful landscape. It loses its power. He tapped the logbook. These words are my anchor. They tether me not to my small self, but to the immense, detailed reality outside. They are my true conversation. And over time, I found that the quality of my inner silence changed. It wasn't an empty silence of absence. It became a full silence, rich with all these things I had noticed and named with care. My speech to myself became this log. And that changed everything. The young keeper was stunned. He had come to the island fearing the silence. Alistair had shown him that the silence could be populated with a universe of precise, loving observation. The internal chatter of, I am, could be quieted by the profound practice of, it is. The Buddha taught the practice of mindfulness, sati, which is often translated as, remembering, or lucid awareness. Alistair's log was a profound practice of mindfulness. He was using written words not to express his ego's complaints, but to meticulously connect with reality as it was. He was choosing his internal speech with the care of a poet, directing his mind away from the repetitive story of self and toward the ever-unfolding story of the world. In doing so, he transformed his isolation into a deep, participatory solitude. He reminds us that we have a choice in the content of our inner narrative. We can feed the I story, or we can feed our connection to the suchness of life. The words we use in our own minds determine whether we live in a small, stuffy room of self-concern, or in a boundless, ever-surprising world. Now, let us travel to the sun-drenched shores of a small Greek island. In a harbor of brightly painted fishing boats, there lived an elderly woman named Eleni. She was known as the mender of nets. All the fishermen brought their torn, tangled nets to her. She would sit in the shade of a gnarled olive tree, her fingers flying with impossible speed, tying, looping, repairing. But her real magic was in her listening. The fishermen would come with their nets and their troubles. They would complain about catches, about regulations, about each other. They would gossip, speculate, and vent their frustrations. Eleni would listen, nod, and say nothing. She just mended. When a man finished his tirade, she would hand him back his perfectly repaired net and say only one thing. It was never advice. It was always a simple, factual observation about the net itself. To a man raging about a rival's luck, she might say, "This tier was made by a sharp rock, not a fish. You were fishing too close to the old wall. The net is strong. Your place was wrong." To a man despairing about a poor season, she'd say, "See this section? The knots are perfect. Your hands made this. The sea is fickle. Your skill is not." To a man tangled in gossip, she'd hold up the net, a complex snarl in her hands. "Look. This is what happens when you pull against the tangle. It gets tighter. You must find the one loose end and follow it with patience. Gossip is a net pulled tight by angry hands. Be the loose end. Be quiet, and follow the truth out." Her words were legendary. They cut through the emotional noise and pointed directly to a tangible, actionable truth. She didn't engage with the drama. She engaged with the material reality the drama was obscuring. The fishermen didn't come just for mended nets, they came for the clarity that came with them. Her words were like a clear wind blowing away the fog of their complaints, leaving only the bare, actionable facts of the situation. One day, a young fisherman, consumed by jealousy and planning a foolish confrontation, brought her a net. He ranted for 20 minutes. Eleni listened, mended. When she handed him the net, she said, "The hole is mended. But your mind is still torn. You are looking at his boat, his catch. You are not looking at your own compass. A man who sails by another's star is always lost." The young man, deflated, asked, "How do you always know what to say?" Eleni smiled. "I don't listen to your words about others. I listen to what your story is doing to you. Your anger makes your hands shake, see these uneven knots in the net. Your fear makes you hurry, see this messy repair. I listen to the net. The net tells me the state of your heart. Then I just say what the net has shown me. I speak to the evidence, not to the story." The Buddha taught that right view precedes right speech. To speak wisely, we must see clearly. Eleni had mastered this. She bypassed the convoluted, ego-driven narratives and looked at the tangible evidence, the net, the knots, the tear. Her speech was rooted in this clear perception. She didn't get entangled in the emotional web, she simply pointed to the one thread that could lead out of it. In our lives, when we are caught in storms of emotion and gossip, we can practice being Eleni. We can ask, what is the actual net here? What is the tangible evidence, stripped of my story about it? What one clear, factual observation can I make that will cut through the tangle? Speech rooted in clear perception has a power that speech rooted in reaction never will. Our journey now takes us to the famed island of Murano, near Venice, where fire and breath transform sand into breathtaking art. In a furnace-lit workshop, a master glassblower named Giovanni was teaching his granddaughter, Sofia, the craft. He was teaching her the most critical lesson, the breath. The breath is everything, Cara, he said, his face glowing in the furnace's heat. Not just the force, but the consistency. A jagged, panicked breath makes brittle glass. A smooth, steady, controlled breath makes it strong, allows it to expand, to take its most beautiful form. Your breath must be like a calm river, from deep in your belly. He demonstrated, gathering a molten gather of glass on his blowpipe. He breathed into it, long and even. The red-hot blob expanded into a perfect, glowing sphere. See? The breath speaks to the glass. It says, expand. Trust. Hold this shape. Sophia tried, but her breath was short, anxious. The glass wobbled, thickened in some places, thinned dangerously in others. I'm terrible at this, she exhaled sharply, ruining the piece. Giovanni calmly reheated the glass. It is not your hands, he said. It is your conversation with fear. You are not breathing. You are speaking to the glass with your breath. And right now, you are shouting, be careful. Don't break. I might fail. And the glass obeys. It becomes careful, tense, and then it breaks. You must change the message in your breath. He placed his hands on her shoulders. Before you gather the glass, stand here. Close your eyes. Breathe 3 breaths that say only one word, pace. Peace. Let your lungs fill with that word. Let your blood carry that word. Then, when you breathe into the pipe, you are not blowing air. You are blowing pace into the heart of the fire. You are telling the glass, become peace. Then see what happens. Skeptical but willing, Sophia tried. She stood before the furnace, eyes closed, breathing. Pace. 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 She felt her shoulders drop. The frantic chatter in her mind quieted. She gathered the glass, brought it to her lips, and breathed. She imagined the word pace flowing from her center into the molten sphere. The glass expanded. Not perfectly, not like her grandfather's, but smoothly, evenly. It held. It began to take a graceful, fluid shape. She was astounded. Giovanni nodded. You see. The glass does not hear Italian or English. It hears the quality of your spirit, transmitted on your breath. Your inner speech becomes your breath, and your breath becomes form. This is true for everything, Sophia. Not just glass. Your words to others are just breath shaped by your mind. If your inner speech is fearful, anxious, critical, that is the quality of your breath, your spirit. And that is what you blow into the world. It shapes the relationships around you, makes them brittle or strong. Before you speak to anyone, breathe pace into your own heart. Then let your words be formed from that. This is a profound teaching on the unity of thought, breath, and speech. The Buddha taught about prana, or life energy, which is intimately linked with breath. Our mental state dictates our breath, and our breath carries our mental state out into the world. Giovanni taught that our very physical creations are imbued with the quality of our inner dialogue. By extension, our social and emotional creations, our conversations, our relationships, are also blown into being by the breath of our inner speech. If we want to create beauty, strength, and resilience in our world, we must first attend to the quality of the breath within. We must learn to breathe peace before we attempt to shape anything with our words. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there is an elder of the Hunikin people, a man named Sana. He is a mapmaker, but not of the kind we know. He does not draw lines on paper showing rivers and hills. He sings maps. His maps are Ainbu, sacred chants that describe journeys through the forest in terms of relationships. Where the spirit of the kapok tree speaks to the stream, where the dart frog shares its medicine with a certain vine, where the ancestors' laughter can be heard in the sound of a particular waterfall. A young anthropologist, Daniel, came to learn from him, armed with GPS and notebooks. He was frustrated by the imprecision of the songs. "But how do you know the distance?" he asked. "How do you measure the location?" Sana listened patiently. One morning, he took Daniel on a walk. After hours of trekking, Daniel was completely lost. The green sameness of the jungle was disorienting. Sana stopped, closed his eyes, and began to hum, then sing softly. It was a fragment of a mapping chant. As he sang, he pointed. There, the tree with the twisted root that holds the story of the flood. Its roots drink from the same underground tear as the spring we passed. We are here, in the friendship between the root and the tear. Daniel was baffled. It was nonsense to his scientific mind. Yet, Sana, using only his chant, led them unerringly back to the village. Later, Sana explained. "Your maps speak of space. My maps speak of connection. You say, 10 kilometers. I say, the journey of the toucan from its morning nest to the afternoon fig tree. Your words try to capture the world as a dead thing, measured and controlled. My words participate in the world as a living conversation. When I sing the map, I am not describing a place. I am introducing myself to it. I am saying, I am here, in relationship with you, tree. With you, river. The forest responds to this. It shows the way to those who speak its language of connection, not of measurement." He looked at Daniel's notebook. "Your words on that paper are lonely. They sit in silence. My words in the air are alive. They are calls, and the forest echoes back. You are lost because you are trying to control with words. I am found because I am conversing with words." Daniel's worldview shook. He had come to study mapping, but Sana was teaching him about speech itself. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are interdependent, empty of separate, independent existence. Sana's maps were an expression of this truth. He did not use words to label and separate objects, tree, river, kilometer. He used words to describe the relationships that constituted the reality of a place. His speech was inherently connective, participatory, and humble. It acknowledged that the speaker is part of the web, not an external observer labeling it. This challenges our everyday speech. How often do we use words to label, judge, and separate? That is a problem. He is difficult. I am lost. These are static, lonely words. What if we tried to speak like Tsana? Using words that describe relationship, connection, and process. This situation involves a tension between need and resource. Our communication is facing obstacles. I am in a process of finding my way. This shift in language can change our very experience of reality, from one of isolated objects and problems to one of dynamic, living relationships that we are part of. It is the difference between being lost in a silent, labeled prison and being in a conversant, responsive universe. We have sailed from a lighthouse of inner attention to a Greek netmender's clarity, from a glassblower's breath to a mapmaker's song. Each story reveals a different facet of the same jewel. Our speech, inner and outer, is not a passive reporting of reality. It is an active, creative, and participatory force. It shapes our perception, our relationships, and the very world we experience. Let us pause here, and breathe pace into the understanding taking shape within. Let us continue, carrying the mapmaker's song in our hearts, a reminder that words can be bridges to connection, not walls of separation. We move now from the deep, living green of the Amazon to a place of stark geometry and human ambition. In the heart of a bustling, hypermodern city in South Korea, there worked an architect named Min Jun. He was famous for designing soaring glass towers, temples of commerce and light. But he was privately obsessed with a different project, a house of silence. Not a meditation center, but a private home designed, from its foundation to its roof, to influence the speech of those within it. He built it for a reclusive client, a former diplomat who was weary of words. The house was a masterpiece of subtle acoustics. Curved walls of specially formulated plaster absorbed specific frequencies of sound. The floor plan created natural pauses in movement, discouraging hurried conversation. Windows were placed not for views, but for the quality of light at different times of day, a soft, diffuse morning light in the kitchen to ease people into the day, a sharper afternoon light in the study to encourage clarity of thought. Min Jun's most ingenious feature was the echo garden, a small, enclosed courtyard. In its center was a stone basin with a single drop of water falling into it from a copper tube every 10 seconds. Plink. The space was designed so that a spoken word would echo, but not immediately. There was a 3-second delay. If you said anger in frustration, 3 seconds later, anger would come back to you, hollow and obvious. If you whispered, "Thank you," the same gentle delay would return it. The client, Mr. Kim, moved in. He hosted a small dinner for old colleagues, men used to debate and verbal sparring. As the evening went on, the house began its work. Conversations in the living room grew softer, as the room absorbed sharp tones. In the echo garden after dinner, one guest, trying to make a forceful point, said, "That's completely wrong." 3 seconds later, the courtyard faithfully whispered, "Completely wrong." The man flinched. His own certitude, heard in this detached echo, sounded brittle, even foolish. Another, speaking of a mutual friend's illness, said quietly, "I'm so sorry to hear that." The delayed echo returned. Sorry to hear that, the words, heard again, felt like a genuine embrace. Mr. Kim later told Min Jun, the house doesn't force silence. It holds up a mirror to speech. It makes you hear your own words as a stranger would. It's uncomfortable and transformative. We choose our words with such care in that space, because we know we will have to hear them again, naked and separate from our intention. Min Jun nodded. That was the design. Most architecture shouts or shelters. I wanted to create architecture that listens, and gives that listening back to the inhabitant. We think we design spaces for bodies. But really, we design spaces for the words those bodies will speak. The Buddha taught the importance of mindfulness in speech, which includes mindfulness after speech, being aware of its effects. Min Jun's house was a physical manifestation of that principle. It provided immediate, unavoidable feedback. It collapsed the distance between speaking and hearing the consequence. In our lives, we lack such an elegant echo chamber. Our words fly out, and we may never truly hear their impact. But we can cultivate an inner house of silence. We can build a pause, a 3-second space of mindfulness, between impulse and speech. And in that pause, we can imagine the echo. We can ask, if my words were reflected back to me in a calm, empty space, would they sound like wisdom or noise? Like connection or separation? Architecture of the spirit begins with this intentional pause. In a dusty, cluttered antique shop in the French Quarter of New Orleans, there lived an elderly woman named Miss Evangeline. She was known as the curator of lost things. People brought her objects found in attics, pulled from flood-wrecked homes, discovered in forgotten trunks, a single earring, a faded love letter, a broken pocket watch, a child's first tooth wrapped in crumbling tissue. Miss Evangeline did not just appraise and sell. She listened to the story of the object as the person knew it. Then, she would often tell a different story. Not a fictional one, but a story focused on the journey of the object, not its loss. Holding a tarnished silver spoon, a woman might say, "It was my grandmother's. Lost for years after the hurricane. It's ruined now." Miss Evangeline would polish it slowly with a cloth. "No, dear," she'd murmur. "Look. This scratch here. That's from stirring 1,000 pots of gumbo for hungry families. This slight bend. That's from prying open a window to let the cool air in on a hot night. It's not ruined. It's inscribed with service. It's not lost. It was just waiting for you to remember its song." A man brought in a water-stained, unreadable diary. "My father's. From the war. The words are all gone. It's useless." Miss Evangeline would run her fingers over the bloated pages. "The words the ink made are gone," she'd correct gently. "But the words the water wrote are here. See these ripples, these stains? This is the map of where it traveled to survive and return to you. The story now is not what he wrote, but what it endured to come home. That is a powerful story. Don't mourn the lost words. Read the story of resilience the water told." She was a master of reframing through speech. She used words not to describe the obvious narrative of loss and damage, but to reveal a hidden, often more beautiful narrative of purpose, service, and resilience inscribed in the very flaws. She taught people to speak about their own histories, their own perceived brokenness, in a new way. A young artist, struggling with a period of creative failure, brought her a paintbrush with stiff, splayed bristles. It's had it. Useless. Miss Evangeline held it up to the light. Nonsense. These bristles are splayed because they pushed against resistance until they could push no more. They shaped color until they were worn into this new shape. This isn't a dead brush. This is a teacher. It has reached the limit of one kind of usefulness and is now showing you its true form, a sculpture of perseverance. Talk to it. Ask it what it wants to be now. Maybe it wants to be wired into a necklace, to rest against the heart of a creator as a talisman. Don't speak of it as useless. Speak to it about its next becoming. The artist left, not with a new brush, but with a new vocabulary for her own creative exhaustion. She wasn't blocked, she was being reshaped by resistance for a new kind of expression. Miss Evangeline embodied the Buddhist teaching of right view applied to speech. Our words solidify our perception. If we speak of things as lost, broken, or useless, that is what they become in our world. If we use words that reveal latent meaning, purpose, or a journey, we transform them, and ourselves. She was a linguistic alchemist, turning the leaden narrative of loss into the gold of discovered meaning. Her practice invites us to curate the stories we tell about our own lives. What lost things within you are you describing with harsh, final words? Can you, like Miss Evangeline, find the inscription of service, the map of resilience, the sculpture of perseverance within your own perceived flaws? Change the story you tell, and you change the thing itself. In the city of music, Vienna, there worked a piano tuner named Friedrich. He was called not to concert halls, but primarily to the homes of ordinary people, to pianos that sat in living rooms, often unused for years, gathering dust and drifting out of tune. Friedrich's process was slow, methodical. He would first spend time just listening to the family. Not to their words about the piano, but to the sounds of the house, the tone of voices, the rhythm of footsteps, the silences. He believed a piano absorbed the sonic atmosphere of a home. A house filled with sharp arguments would have strings that were tense, prone to going sharp. A house of depressive quiet would have strings that went flat, losing their vitality. His job, he felt, was not just to adjust pins and strings, but to retune the instrument to a neutral, perfect pitch that could then withstand, or even subtly counteract, the home's emotional climate. At one home, a family was perpetually anxious, speaking in rapid, overlapping sentences. Their piano was painfully sharp. Friedrich worked for hours. As he tuned, he began to speak, his voice a slow, steady counter-rhythm to theirs. He would tell stories about the forest where the spruce for the soundboard came from, describing the slow growth of trees in deep silence. He spoke of the felt on the hammers, made from the wool of sheep grazing on quiet alpine slopes. He wasn't just talking, he was using his voice as a tuning fork, introducing a frequency of calm into the space. When he finished, he played a simple, resonant C major chord. The sound was round, whole, and profoundly peaceful. It hung in the air, silencing the family's chatter. The mother, tears in her eyes, said, "I'd forgotten it could sound like that. It sounds like peace." Friedrich nodded. It is peace. The potential was always there, in the wood and wire. It was just waiting for the right tension. Your piano was mirroring your speed. Now it holds a different note for you to remember. When things feel sharp, come and play this one chord. Let it tune you. In another home, a widower lived in thick silence. His piano was flat, dull. Friedrich tuned it, but also, with permission, left the lid open. The strings need to breathe, he said. They need to hear life. Play for it. Talk near it. It needs vibration to stay alive, just like we do. He encouraged the man to simply sit at the piano and tap a single key every day, to reconnect. Her words were legendary. They cut through the emotional noise and pointed directly to a tangible, actionable truth. She didn't engage with the drama. She engaged with the material reality the drama was obscuring. The fishermen didn't come just for mended nets, they came for the clarity that came with them. Her words were like a clear wind blowing away the fog of their complaints, leaving only the bare, actionable facts of the situation. One day, a young fisherman, consumed by jealousy and planning a foolish confrontation, brought her a net. He ranted for 20 minutes. Eleni listened, mended. When she handed him the net, she said, "The hole is mended. But your mind is still torn. You are looking at his boat, his catch. You are not looking at your own compass. A man who sails by another's star is always lost." The young man, deflated, asked, "How do you always know what to say?" Eleni smiled. "I don't listen to your words about others. I listen to what your story is doing to you. Your anger makes your hands shake, see these uneven knots in the net. Your fear makes you hurry, see this messy repair. I listen to the net. The net tells me the state of your heart. Then I just say what the net has shown me. I speak to the evidence, not to the story." The Buddha taught that right view precedes right speech. To speak wisely, we must see clearly. Eleni had mastered this. She bypassed the convoluted, ego-driven narratives and looked at the tangible evidence, the net, the knots, the tear. Her speech was rooted in this clear perception. She didn't get entangled in the emotional web, she simply pointed to the one thread that could lead out of it. In our lives, when we are caught in storms of emotion and gossip, we can practice being Eleni. We can ask, what is the actual net here? What is the tangible evidence, stripped of my story about it? What one clear, factual observation can I make that will cut through the tangle? Speech rooted in clear perception has a power that speech rooted in reaction never will. Our journey now takes us to the famed island of Murano, near Venice, where fire and breath transform sand into breathtaking art. In a furnace-lit workshop, a master glassblower named Giovanni was teaching his granddaughter, Sophia, the craft. He was teaching her the most critical lesson, the breath. "The breath is everything, Cara," he said, his face glowing in the furnace's heat. "Not just the force, but the consistency. A jagged, panicked breath makes brittle glass. A smooth, steady, controlled breath makes it strong, allows it to expand, to take its most beautiful form. Your breath must be like a calm river, from deep in your belly." He demonstrated, gathering a molten gather of glass on his blowpipe. He breathed into it, long and even. The red-hot blob expanded into a perfect, glowing sphere. See? The breath speaks to the glass. It says, expand. Trust. Hold this shape. Sophia tried, but her breath was short, anxious. The glass wobbled, thickened in some places, thinned dangerously in others. I'm terrible at this, she exhaled sharply, ruining the piece. Giovanni calmly reheated the glass. It is not your hands, he said. It is your conversation with fear. You are not breathing. You are speaking to the glass with your breath. And right now, you are shouting, be careful. Don't break. I might fail. And the glass obeys. It becomes careful, tense, and then it breaks. You must change the message in your breath. He placed his hands on her shoulders. Before you gather the glass, stand here. Close your eyes. Breathe 3 breaths that say only one word, pace. Peace. Let your lungs fill with that word. Let your blood carry that word. Then, when you breathe into the pipe, you are not blowing air. You are blowing pace into the heart of the fire. You are telling the glass, become peace. Then see what happens. Skeptical but willing, Sophia tried. She stood before the furnace, eyes closed, breathing. Pace. 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 She felt her shoulders drop. The frantic chatter in her mind quieted. She gathered the glass, brought it to her lips, and breathed. She imagined the word pace flowing from her center into the molten sphere. The glass expanded. Not perfectly, not like her grandfather's, but smoothly, evenly. It held. It began to take a graceful, fluid shape. She was astounded. Giovanni nodded. You see, the glass does not hear Italian or English. It hears the quality of your spirit, transmitted on your breath. Your inner speech becomes your breath, and your breath becomes form. This is true for everything, Sophia. Not just glass. Your words to others are just breath shaped by your mind. If your inner speech is fearful, anxious, critical, that is the quality of your breath, your spirit. And that is what you blow into the world. It shapes the relationships around you, makes them brittle or strong. Before you speak to anyone, breathe pace into your own heart. Then let your words be formed from that. This is a profound teaching on the unity of thought, breath, and speech. The Buddha taught about prana, or life energy, which is intimately linked with breath. Our mental state dictates our breath, and our breath carries our mental state out into the world. Giovanni taught that our very physical creations are imbued with the quality of our inner dialogue. By extension, our social and emotional creations, our conversations, our relationships, are also blown into being by the breath of our inner speech. If we want to create beauty, strength, and resilience in our world, we must first attend to the quality of the breath within. We must learn to breathe pace, peace, before we attempt to shape anything with our words. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there is an elder of the Hunikin people, a man named Sana. He is a mapmaker, but not of the kind we know. He does not draw lines on paper showing rivers and hills. He sings maps. His maps are Ainbu, sacred chants that describe journeys through the forest in terms of relationships. Where the spirit of the kapok tree speaks to the stream, where the dart frog shares its medicine with a certain vine, where the ancestors' laughter can be heard in the sound of a particular waterfall. A young anthropologist, Daniel, came to learn from him, armed with GPS and notebooks. He was frustrated by the imprecision of the songs. "But how do you know the distance?" he asked. "How do you measure the location?" Sana listened patiently. One morning, he took Daniel on a walk. After hours of trekking, Daniel was completely lost. The green sameness of the jungle was disorienting. Sana stopped, closed his eyes, and began to hum, then sing softly. It was a fragment of a mapping chant. As he sang, he pointed. There, the tree with the twisted root that holds the story of the flood. Its roots drink from the same underground tear as the spring we passed. We are here, in the friendship between the root and the tear. Daniel was baffled. It was nonsense to his scientific mind. Yet, Sana, using only his chant, led them unerringly back to the village. Later, Sana explained. "Your maps speak of space. My maps speak of connection. You say, 10 kilometers. I say, the journey of the toucan from its morning nest to the afternoon fig tree. Your words try to capture the world as a dead thing, measured and controlled. My words participate in the world as a living conversation. When I sing the map, I am not describing a place. I am introducing myself to it. I am saying, I am here, in relationship with you, tree. With you, river." The forest responds to this. It shows the way to those who speak its language of connection, not of measurement. He looked at Daniel's notebook. "Your words on that paper are lonely. They sit in silence. My words in the air are alive. They are calls, and the forest echoes back. You are lost because you are trying to control with words. I am found because I am conversing with words." Daniel's worldview shook. He had come to study mapping, but Sana was teaching him about speech itself. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are interdependent, empty of separate, independent existence. Sana's maps were an expression of this truth. He did not use words to label and separate objects, tree, river, kilometer. He used words to describe the relationships that constituted the reality of a place. His speech was inherently connective, participatory, and humble. It acknowledged that the speaker is part of the web, not an external observer labeling it. This challenges our everyday speech. How often do we use words to label, judge, and separate? That is a problem. He is difficult. I am lost. These are static, lonely words. What if we tried to speak like Sana? Using words that describe relationship, connection, and process. This situation involves a tension between need and resource. Our communication is facing obstacles. I am in a process of finding my way. This shift in language can change our very experience of reality, from one of isolated objects and problems to one of dynamic, living relationships that we are part of. It is the difference between being lost in a silent, labeled prison and being in a conversant, responsive universe. We have sailed from a lighthouse of inner attention to a Greek netmender's clarity, from a glassblower's breath to a mapmaker's song. Each story reveals a different facet of the same jewel. Our speech, inner and outer, is not a passive reporting of reality. It is an active, creative, and participatory force. It shapes our perception, our relationships, and the very world we experience. Let us pause here, and breathe pace into the understanding taking shape within. Let us continue, carrying the mapmaker's song in our hearts, a reminder that words can be bridges to connection, not walls of separation. We move now from the deep, living green of the Amazon to a place of stark geometry and human ambition. In the heart of a bustling, hypermodern city in South Korea, there worked an architect named Min Jun. He was famous for designing soaring glass towers, temples of commerce and light. But he was privately obsessed with a different project, a house of silence. Not a meditation center, but a private home designed, from its foundation to its roof, to influence the speech of those within it. He built it for a reclusive client, a former diplomat who was weary of words. The house was a masterpiece of subtle acoustics. Curved walls of specially formulated plaster absorbed specific frequencies of sound. The floor plan created natural pauses in movement, discouraging hurried conversation. Windows were placed not for views, but for the quality of light at different times of day, a soft, diffuse morning light in the kitchen to ease people into the day, a sharper afternoon light in the study to encourage clarity of thought. Min Jun's most ingenious feature was the echo garden, a small, enclosed courtyard. In its center was a stone basin with a single drop of water falling into it from a copper tube every 10 seconds. Plink. The space was designed so that a spoken word would echo, but not immediately. There was a 3-second delay. If you said anger in frustration, 3 seconds later, anger would come back to you, hollow and obvious. If you whispered, "Thank you," the same gentle delay would return it. The client, Mr. Kim, moved in. He hosted a small dinner for old colleagues, men used to debate and verbal sparring. As the evening went on, the house began its work. Conversations in the living room grew softer, as the room absorbed sharp tones. In the echo garden after dinner, one guest, trying to make a forceful point, said, "That's completely wrong." 3 seconds later, the courtyard faithfully whispered, "Completely wrong." The man flinched. His own certitude, heard in this detached echo, sounded brittle, even foolish. Another, speaking of a mutual friend's illness, said quietly, "I'm so sorry to hear that." The delayed echo returned. "Sorry to hear that," the words, heard again, felt like a genuine embrace. Mr. Kim later told Min Jun, "The house doesn't force silence. It holds up a mirror to speech. It makes you hear your own words as a stranger would. It's uncomfortable and transformative." We choose our words with such care in that space, because we know we will have to hear them again, naked and separate from our intention. Min Jun nodded. That was the design. Most architecture shouts or shelters. I wanted to create architecture that listens, and gives that listening back to the inhabitant. We think we design spaces for bodies. But really, we design spaces for the words those bodies will speak. The Buddha taught the importance of mindfulness in speech, which includes mindfulness after speech, being aware of its effects. Min Jun's house was a physical manifestation of that principle. It provided immediate, unavoidable feedback. It collapsed the distance between speaking and hearing the consequence. In our lives, we lack such an elegant echo chamber. Our words fly out, and we may never truly hear their impact. But we can cultivate an inner house of silence. We can build a pause, a 3-second space of mindfulness, between impulse and speech. And in that pause, we can imagine the echo. We can ask, if my words were reflected back to me in a calm, empty space, would they sound like wisdom or noise? Like connection or separation? Architecture of the spirit begins with this intentional pause. In a dusty, cluttered antique shop in the French Quarter of New Orleans, there lived an elderly woman named Miss Evangeline. She was known as the curator of lost things. People brought her objects found in attics, pulled from flood-wrecked homes, discovered in forgotten trunks, a single earring, a faded love letter, a broken pocket watch, a child's first tooth wrapped in crumbling tissue. Miss Evangeline did not just appraise and sell. She listened to the story of the object as the person knew it. Then, she would often tell a different story. Not a fictional one, but a story focused on the journey of the object, not its loss. Holding a tarnished silver spoon, a woman might say, "It was my grandmother's. Lost for years after the hurricane. It's ruined now." Miss Evangeline would polish it slowly with a cloth. "No, dear," she'd murmur. "Look. This scratch here. That's from stirring 1,000 pots of gumbo for hungry families. This slight bend. That's from prying open a window to let the cool air in on a hot night. It's not ruined. It's inscribed with service. It's not lost. It was just waiting for you to remember its song." A man brought in a water-stained, unreadable diary. "My father's. From the war. The words are all gone. It's useless." Miss Evangeline would run her fingers over the bloated pages. "The words the ink made are gone," she'd correct gently. "But the words the water wrote are here. See these ripples, these stains? This is the map of where it traveled to survive and return to you. The story now is not what he wrote, but what it endured to come home. That is a powerful story. Don't mourn the lost words. Read the story of resilience the water told." She was a master of reframing through speech. She used words not to describe the obvious narrative of loss and damage, but to reveal a hidden, often more beautiful narrative of purpose, service, and resilience inscribed in the very flaws. She taught people to speak about their own histories, their own perceived brokenness, in a new way. A young artist, struggling with a period of creative failure, brought her a paintbrush with stiff, splayed bristles. "It's had it. Useless." Miss Evangeline held it up to the light. "Nonsense. These bristles are splayed because they pushed against resistance until they could push no more. They shaped color until they were worn into this new shape. This isn't a dead brush. This is a teacher. It has reached the limit of one kind of usefulness and is now showing you its true form, a sculpture of perseverance. Talk to it. Ask it what it wants to be now. Maybe it wants to be wired into a necklace, to rest against the heart of a creator as a talisman. Don't speak of it as useless. Speak to it about its next becoming." The artist left, not with a new brush, but with a new vocabulary for her own creative exhaustion. She wasn't blocked, she was being reshaped by resistance for a new kind of expression. Miss Evangeline embodied the Buddhist teaching of right view applied to speech. Our words solidify our perception. If we speak of things as lost, broken, or useless, that is what they become in our world. If we use words that reveal latent meaning, purpose, or a journey, we transform them, and ourselves. She was a linguistic alchemist, turning the leaden narrative of loss into the gold of discovered meaning. Her practice invites us to curate the stories we tell about our own lives. What lost things within you are you describing with harsh, final words? Can you, like Miss Evangeline, find the inscription of service, the map of resilience, the sculpture of perseverance within your own perceived flaws? Change the story you tell, and you change the thing itself. In the city of music, Vienna, there worked a piano tuner named Friedrich. He was called not to concert halls, but primarily to the homes of ordinary people, to pianos that sat in living rooms, often unused for years, gathering dust and drifting out of tune. Friedrich's process was slow, methodical. He would first spend time just listening to the family. Not to their words about the piano, but to the sounds of the house, the tone of voices, the rhythm of footsteps, the silences. He believed a piano absorbed the sonic atmosphere of a home. A house filled with sharp arguments would have strings that were tense, prone to going sharp. A house of depressive quiet would have strings that went flat, losing their vitality. His job, he felt, was not just to adjust pins and strings, but to retune the instrument to a neutral, perfect pitch that could then withstand, or even subtly counteract, the home's emotional climate. At one home, a family was perpetually anxious, speaking in rapid, overlapping sentences. Their piano was painfully sharp. Friedrich worked for hours. As he tuned, he began to speak, his voice a slow, steady counter-rhythm to theirs. He would tell stories about the forest where the spruce for the soundboard came from, describing the slow growth of trees in deep silence. He spoke of the felt on the hammers, made from the wool of sheep grazing on quiet alpine slopes. He wasn't just talking, he was using his voice as a tuning fork, introducing a frequency of calm into the space. When he finished, he played a simple, resonant C major chord. The sound was round, whole, and profoundly peaceful. It hung in the air, silencing the family's chatter. The mother, tears in her eyes, said, "I'd forgotten it could sound like that. It sounds like peace." Friedrich nodded. "It is peace." The potential was always there, in the wood and wire. It was just waiting for the right tension. Your piano was mirroring your speed. Now it holds a different note for you to remember. When things feel sharp, come and play this one chord. Let it tune you. In another home, a widower lived in thick silence. His piano was flat, dull. Friedrich tuned it, but also, with permission, left the lid open. "The strings need to breathe," he said. "They need to hear life. Play for it. Talk near it. It needs vibration to stay alive, just like we do." He encouraged the man to simply sit at the piano and tap a single key every day, to reconnect. Friedrich understood that everything is vibration. Speech is vibration. Emotion is vibration. A piano string is vibration. They influence each other. His work was an act of healing through resonant correction. He used his own calm, purposeful speech and action to retune an instrument, which could then retune a household. The Buddha taught about samadhi, concentration or collectedness, which brings the mind into a unified, harmonious state. A poorly tuned mind, like a poorly tuned piano, creates discordant music, discordant thoughts and speech. Friedrich was a practical master of samadhi for inanimate objects, knowing they are not separate from the animate world. He shows us that our personal vibration, the tone of our being, expressed through our voice and presence, can literally tune the environment around us. We can choose to be a force that sharpens and aggravates, or one that brings things back to a harmonious, peaceful pitch. Before entering a tense space, can we, like Friedrich, first tune ourselves to a note of calm? Can our first words be like that resonant C major chord, establishing a field of peace that others can unconsciously align with? On the Isle of Skye, in a small croft facing the sea, lived a woman named Flora who practiced the ancient craft of rope-making from heather and hemp. She didn't make ropes for boats, but for a special purpose, talk ropes. It was a local, fading tradition. When two people were in a conflict, neighbors over a boundary, siblings over an inheritance, they would go to Flora. She would not mediate. Instead, she would have them make a rope together. She would set up her simple rope walk. The two parties would stand apart, each holding a bundle of fibers. As they walked backwards, twisting the fibers against each other, they had to talk. But there was a rule: they could only speak in turns, and each statement had to begin with "I see" or "I feel," followed by a fact about the present moment of making the rope. Not about the past grievance. "I see your hands are trembling," one might say. "I feel the fibers beginning to grip each other," the other would respond. "I see the sky is clearing over the water. I feel the blisters forming on my palms. I see you're stepping carefully to keep the tension even. I feel this is harder than I thought." Back and forth, walking and twisting, speaking only to the shared, physical reality of the task. The rope grew, strong and tangible, between them. The old argument, unspoken, began to feel distant, abstract compared to the immediate, collaborative reality of creating something sturdy. By the time a length of rope was made, their anger was often spent, replaced by the fatigue and quiet pride of shared labor. Flora would then take the rope, tie it into a specific knot. A knot that could be easily undone with a single pull, and give it to them. "This rope is your argument," she'd say. "It's strong now, because you worked on it together. But see this knot? It's not a deadlock. It's a bow. Either of you can undo it with one gentle, honest pull. Take it. Hang it where you can see it. When you forget you made something together, let it remind you." The genius of Flora's practice was that it bypassed the toxic language of the past, "you said, you did," and forced a new, shared language of the present, "I see, I feel." It transformed adversarial energy into cooperative, creative energy. The rope was a physical metaphor for their relationship, a twist of separate fibers that, under the right tension and direction, became something stronger than either alone. The reversible knot symbolized that resolution is always possible, not through victory, but through a simple, willing release. The Buddha taught the path of ending conflict through non-attachment to views. Flora's ritual physically enacted this. She didn't ask people to give up their view, she simply engaged them in an activity where those views were irrelevant. In creating something new together, the old, rigid positions naturally softened. When we are entangled in conflict, we might not have a rope walk, but we can apply the principle. Can we shift the conversation from the past to the shared present? Can we find a simple, tangible task to do together, making a meal, organizing a space, while using a gentler, present tense language? I see you're putting the books there. I feel we're making progress. This shared, neutral ground can become the new rope that connects you, making the old conflict seem like a distant, fading story. We have moved from an architect's silent echo to a curator's reframing, from a piano tuner's resonance to a rope weaver's collaborative twist. Each story deepens our understanding. Our words are not just descriptions. They are tuners. They are curators. They are the very fibers we use to weave our connections. Let this understanding settle, like a chord fading into a peaceful room. Let us continue, the strength of a heather rope still felt in our hands, a symbol of what can be woven when we direct our energy toward a shared creation rather than a shared grievance. We now journey to a place where the very air seems to hold memory, and speech must navigate the weight of history. In the ancient city of Jerusalem, in a basement archive older than most countries, worked an elderly man named Leviticus. He was an archivist, but of a peculiar sort. He did not catalog grand decrees or famous treaties. He collected whispers. Or rather, the transcripts of dialogues, peace talks, negotiations, community mediations, that had taken place in the city over centuries. His life's work was analyzing not the content of the agreements, which often failed, but the patterns of speech that preceded both breakthroughs and breakdowns. He had made a singular discovery, which he called the threshold of the echo. He found that in any difficult dialogue, there came a moment when one party would echo, word for word, a key phrase used by the other, but stripped of its emotional charge. It was the turning point. He showed an apprentice a transcript from 1978. One side said, passionately, "We cannot live with the constant threat to our children's safety." The discussion circled for hours. Then, a negotiator from the other side said, calmly, "So, the core concern is the safety of your children." He did not argue, justify, or deflect. He simply named the concern, neutrally. That was the echo. That single sentence, Lev explained, did not signal agreement. It signaled accurate reception. It said, "I have heard the frequency of your fear." After that echo, the dialogue could move from positional arguing to problem solving. The echo is not repetition, Lev would say in his dusty office, fingers tracing the faded carbon paper. Repetition is a weapon, that's what you always say. The echo is a mirror. It says, "This is what I understand you to have said." Is that correct? It creates a moment of shared reality, however small. Before the echo, there are two separate realities shouting at each other. After the echo, there is one acknowledged reality that two people are looking at together. It may be a painful reality, but it is shared. And you can only build from shared ground. He taught mediators that their primary task was not to propose solutions, but to facilitate these echoes. To gently guide participants to reflect back the core concern, the deepest fear, or the most cherished hope of the other, without addition or debate. When person B can echo person A's deepest concern accurately, Lev said, person A feels, for the first time, heard. And a person who feels heard has less need to shout. Their energy shifts from amplification to exploration. The echo is the crack in the wall through which light, and maybe understanding, can enter. The Buddha taught right listening as a prerequisite for right speech. Lev's threshold of the echo is the practical fruit of deep listening. It is the act of listening so completely that you can reflect the essence back, purified of your own reaction. This echo is an act of supreme respect and non-violence. It disarms not the other person, but the conflict itself. In our own difficult conversations, we can practice this. Before we rebut, before we defend, before we even agree, can we simply offer one clean echo? What I hear you saying is that you feel dismissed. It sounds like your biggest worry here is about stability. This simple act of accurate reflection can transform the entire climate of an interaction, creating that crucial patch of shared ground from which something new might grow. In the lush, rain-soaked hills of Sri Lanka, there was a village with a unique tradition overseen by an old woman known as Auntie Kamala, the gardener of forbidden words. She did not forbid curse words or slurs. Instead, each season, the village would gather and decide on one category of word to put to rest for the next 3 months. One season it might be words of absolute certainty, always, never, impossible. Another season, words of blame, your fault, because of you. Another, words of lack, not enough, can't afford, too tired. These words were not banned. That would give them power. Instead, they were gardened. When someone used a resting word, the listener would not chastise them. They would simply hand the speaker a small, smooth pebble from a basket Kamala kept. The speaker's task was to carry that pebble until they could replace the resting word with a more skillful one, at which point they could return the pebble to the garden path. For example, during a season of resting words of blame, a man might shout, "You ruined the harvest," and receive a pebble. Later, having reflected, he might return to the listener and say, "The harvest failed. I feel scared about what we'll eat." He would then place the pebble on the path. The original statement blamed and created an enemy. The restated observation named a shared reality, the harvest failed, and an internal feeling, I feel scared, which invited collaboration. Kamala explained the wisdom to children, words are like seeds. Some seeds grow thorns that scratch everyone who passes. Some grow flowers that feed bees and bring beauty. We are not pulling out the thorny plants, that is too violent. We are simply not watering them for a season. We let them lie fallow. And in that space, we practice planting different seeds. We practice saying, I feel, instead of, you are. We practice saying, sometimes, instead of, always. We practice saying, I have enough for today, instead of, I don't have. After 3 months, you can use the old words again if you wish. but you will find they taste different in your mouth. They feel like old, ill-fitting clothes. And the new words you've practiced will feel more true, more alive. This village was practicing conscious, collective karma management of speech. The Buddha's precepts on right speech are often seen as personal vows. Kamala's tradition made it a communal, supportive practice. The pebble was not a punishment, it was a mindfulness bell, a tangible reminder. It created a pause. By focusing on categories of unskillful speech rather than specific words, it got at the root mental patterns, rigidity, accusation, scarcity-mindedness. It trained the entire community's mind away from harmful thought patterns and toward more skillful ones, through the gentle discipline of their own tongues. Imagine applying this personally. For 1 week, choose a category, perhaps catastrophic words, disaster, nightmare, ruined. Carry a pebble in your pocket. Each time you use one, feel the pebble. Pause. Can you rephrase? This is not about positivity, it's about moving from reactive, generalized language to specific, descriptive, and responsible language. It is weeding the garden of your own mind. High in the Nepalese Himalayas, on a remote ridge between two villages, lived a man named Dorje. For generations, his family had been signalmen. Before radios, they used a complex system of mirrors, flags, and smoke to send messages across the impassable gorge. The system was precise. A specific flicker of a mirror at dawn meant, the bridge is damaged, do not cross. 3 puffs of smoke at noon meant, a sick elder needs the healer from your side. Dorje's father taught him, the clarity of the signal is a matter of life and death. If your mirror is dirty, if your smoke is too thick or too thin, if you are lazy and use the sick elder signal for a mild headache, you betray the trust. The space between villages is empty, but it is full of our responsibility. Our words, our signals, must cross that emptiness without distortion. They must be pure intention, translated into pure form. One winter, a devastating avalanche severed the last physical link between the villages. Panic ensued. The stored food was on one side, the medicine on the other. Dorje, from his ridge, saw both sides preparing to send desperate, risky parties across unstable slopes. He knew any miscommunication now would mean lives lost. He cleaned his mirrors meticulously. He prepared 3 small, identical fires for clear smoke. He did not send the first, panicked messages that came, "We are trapped. We are starving." He knew those emotional signals would cause rash action. Instead, he sent a sequence. Mirror flash, inventory. Smoke puff, food. Low. Mirror flash, inventory. Smoke puff, medicine. Here. Then the complex flag sequence 4, wait. Assess slope stability in 2 days. Then plan. His signals were not expressive. They were informational. They reduced chaos to data. They replaced emotional contagion with clear assessment. Because of his disciplined, clear signaling, the villages coordinated. They waited 2 days for the snow to settle, then executed a safe, joint rescue and resource-sharing operation. No one died. Afterward, the village elders came to thank him. He said, "My job is not to send your fear. My job is to send what is needed for wisdom. Fear is a dirty mirror. It distorts the message. Clarity saves lives." Dorj's story is a powerful metaphor for communication under stress. In our own emotional avalanches, crises, arguments, panics, we often blast out the emotional signal, "I'm trapped." You always. This is the equivalent of a dirty mirror or thick, obscuring smoke. It provokes reactive, often dangerous responses. Dorj teaches us the discipline of the signalman. In moments of high stakes, our role is not to transmit our raw emotional state. It is to transmit the clearest possible data that can lead to wise action. The facts are X. My need is Y. I propose we Z. This requires pausing, cleaning the mirror of our own perception, and sending a signal designed for understanding, not for emotional release. The Buddha taught that wise action, sammakamanta, follows from wise view and wise intention. Dorj's signals were the embodiment of wise intention translated into wise action, crossing the dangerous gorge of crisis. In your next conflict, can you be the signalman? Can you pause to clean the mirror, and send only the clear, necessary data that builds a bridge to solution? In a quiet monastery in the hills of Bhutan, there lived an old monk named Lobsang who had a sacred duty. He restored ancient text blocks, pechas, whose ink had faded to near invisibility. He did not use chemicals or guesswork. His method was meditation. He would sit before the faded page for hours, sometimes days, in a state of deep, quiet concentration. He explained that he was not seeing the letters with his eyes, but remembering them with his mind. The ink is gone, he told a novice, but the intention of the scribe is not. The hand that pressed the pen into the paper carried a wish, "May these words of wisdom endure." That wish is a kind of energy impressed into the fibers of the paper, deeper than the ink. My job is to become quiet enough to resonate with that original intention. When my mind is completely still, aligned with the wish for preservation, the shapes of the letters begin to suggest themselves. I do not write what I think should be there. I trace what the paper itself whispers it once held. He would then, with a miraculously steady hand, trace over the ghostly impressions with fresh, herbal ink. The texts were not rewritten, they were remembered into legibility. One day, the novice brought him a damaged page from a text on compassion. The page was torn, and a whole line in the middle was completely blank, victim of a water stain. "This one is lost, Rinpoche," the novice said sadly. Lobsang meditated before the page. After a long time, he took up his brush. He restored the visible text above and below the blank line. Then, at the blank line, he did something extraordinary. He left it blank. But around the blank space, he drew a delicate, golden border, like a frame around a window. The novice was confused. "But the words are missing." Lobsang smiled. "The words are missing. But the space where compassion was discussed is not missing. This blank is now the most important part of the text. It says, here, Wisdom was so alive it could not be contained by ink. Here, the reader must bring their own understanding. Here, compassion is not a word to be read, but an experience to be inserted. I have restored the text by honoring its wound. The golden frame says this emptiness is sacred. It is not a loss, it is an invitation. This story transcends the restoration of texts, it speaks to the restoration of meaning in our own lives, especially when communication fails, when words are lost to misunderstanding or hurt. We often try frantically to re-ink the past, to rewrite history with our own version of events, to fill the blank with our own justified narrative. Lobsang offers a different path. What if, instead of trying to replace lost or painful words, we simply honored the space they left? We could frame it with the gold of acknowledgement. Here, something was said that cannot be unsaid. Here, there is a gap in understanding. By framing the emptiness with respect instead of trying to fill it with more arguing, we transform it from a wound into a sacred space, an invitation for new, perhaps wiser, understanding to emerge in its own time. This is the ultimate nonviolence in communication, to acknowledge the void without rushing to colonize it with more noise. From the archivist's echo to the gardener's pebble, from the signalman's clarity to the restorer's sacred space, we see that skillful speech is as much about what we choose not to say, how we listen, and how we hold silence, as it is about the words we utter. Let this wisdom settle like gold leaf around the spaces in your understanding. Let us continue. The image of the monk's golden frame around emptiness, a sacred space where words once failed, lingers with us. It teaches us that honoring silence can be more powerful than filling it. We now journey into the realm of daily life, where our most ordinary words weave the fabric of our destiny. In the dense, pulsating heart of Mumbai, there is a legendary local train conductor named Ramesh. On his route, he shepherds thousands of souls to work each day in carriages packed far beyond any reasonable limit. The heat, the pressure, the fatigue create a tinderbox of irritability. Fights are common. Yet, on Ramesh's train, there is a different atmosphere. He has transformed his role through speech. He does not shout orders. He uses a portable microphone, and his voice, calm and melodic, flows through the crammed compartments. He doesn't announce stops in the usual way. He weaves observations, gentle humor, and acknowledgments into his announcements. Good morning, champions of the day. His voice might cut through the grim silence at 7:15 a.m. Next stop, Dadar. For those carrying a heavy project in your mind as well as your bag, may you find a moment of clarity before you reach the office. For those missing someone at home, may your heart feel light knowing you are loved. Dadar station approaching. Please remember, like a good idea, let the people out before you try to get in. Later, Borivali next. Look out the window to your left. See the sun trying its best on the smog. It's like all of us, isn't it? Doing our best with what we have. Be kind to the person whose elbow is in your ribs. They are someone's son, too. At first, people thought he was eccentric. Then, they began to listen. Then, they began to smile. The collective tension in his carriages palpably eased. Strangers began to make eye contact, to help each other. He reframed the entire hellish experience from a dehumanizing ordeal into a shared, human pilgrimage. He acknowledged their invisible burdens and their dignity. A journalist once rode his train to write about him. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "You're just a conductor. Your job is to get them from A to B." Ramesh wiped sweat from his brow. "Madam, my job is not to move bodies. My job is to move this metal box from point A to point B. But these people inside, they are moving their hearts, their worries, their hopes from home to work. If I only speak about points on a track, I am complicit in making them feel like cargo. But if I speak to their humanity, even for a few seconds, I remind them they are not cargo. They are people, on a difficult journey, together. A few words can change the weather inside this tin can. And if the weather inside is better, the weather they take to their families and jobs will be better. It is a small thing. But a train is made of small, linked carriages. Kindness can be like that, too." Ramesh understood what the Buddha taught about the ripple effect of sila, ethical conduct, which includes speech. His announcements were tiny, consistent acts of metta, loving kindness, broadcast into a space of stress. He was practicing right speech in the most challenging environment imaginable, by being truthful, acknowledging the difficulty, beneficial, easing tension, timely, in the moment of stress. And kind. He didn't solve anyone's problems. He simply changed the narrative around the experience. He showed that our words can be like a gentle conductor for the chaotic train of collective human emotion, guiding it toward a slightly more bearable, even connected, destination. In a small village in the Cotswolds, England, there was a baker named Thomas. He ran the last remaining bakery for miles, and he kept his books in a peculiar way. He had 2 ledgers. One was for money, recording loans for flour, payments for bread. The other, older and more worn, was his word ledger. When Thomas was a young man, his own mentor, the previous baker, had shown it to him. In it were not financial transactions, but recorded moments of speech. Brief entries. March 12, 1974. Old Mrs. Henley, grieving her son. I said, the pain must be unbearable. She later told me it was the first thing that made her feel seen. She paid with a loaf she baked herself the next year. Account balanced. November 3, 1982. Young Peter, ashamed he couldn't pay. I said, everyone eats. Pay me when you can, with money or a good turn. He fixed my oven door 6 months later. Account balanced. January 15, 1999. Argument with supplier, harsh words on both sides. I returned and said, my frustration was about the flour, not you. Tension dissolved. Account balanced. Thomas's mentor explained, flour, yeast, water. These are the ingredients of bread. But the real ingredient of this bakery is trust. And trust is built or broken with words. This ledger reminds me that every word of honesty, every moment of compassionate truth, every apology, is a deposit. Every harsh word, every lie, every bit of gossip, is a withdrawal. And the balance of this account determines whether this shop is a building that sells bread, or a heart of the village. Keep the word ledger in the black, and the money ledger will take care of itself. Thomas continued the practice. He taught his own children, before you speak in anger or fear, imagine writing it down in this book. Will it be a deposit or a withdrawal? A withdrawal might feel good for a second, like eating sugar. But it weakens the structure. A deposit might feel difficult, like lifting a heavy sack. But it strengthens the foundation. One winter, a competing supermarket opened in a nearby town. People warned Thomas he would go out of business. But villagers kept coming. When asked why, an elderly farmer said, "At the supermarket, my money is accepted. At Thomas's, I am accepted. He remembers my grandson's name. He asked about my hip. Once, when I was short, he said, the rain delayed your harvest, not your credit. That's not a transaction. That's a covenant. You can't buy that in a plastic bag." Thomas's word ledger is a tangible practice of karma. It embodies the Buddha's teaching that our intentional actions, including speech, are seeds that yield fruit. Thomas was meticulously mindful of the seeds he was planting with his tongue. He understood that the real economy of human life is not just financial, it's relational, built on the currency of trust, respect, and kindness. Every word spoken is a transaction in that deeper economy. Are you making deposits that build relational wealth, or withdrawals that lead to bankruptcy of the spirit? The practice of pausing to mentally enter the word in a ledger before speaking can cultivate profound mindfulness and responsibility. In the precision-obsessed city of Geneva, a master watchmaker named Anton had a rule engraved on a brass plaque in his workshop: "Here, we repair time, but we do not steal it." It meant more than punctuality. It governed his speech with clients. Watches were brought to him in states of disaster, heirlooms crushed, waterlogged, or simply stopped by mysterious internal revolt. Owners were often anxious, sentimental, or impatient. Anton had a ritual. He would listen to the story of the watch, then place it on a velvet pad. He would say, slowly and clearly, one of three promises. 1. This can be restored. It will take X weeks. The cost will be Y. I promise you clarity and patience. 2. This can be partially restored. It will tell time, but this specific damage, he would point with a tapered tool, will remain visible. It will be a watch that tells a story of survival. I promise you honesty and respect for its history. 3. This cannot be restored to function. But I can preserve it as it is, in a display case, so its story is not lost. I promise you dignity in its retirement. He never used vague language, I'll try, maybe, should work. He never made promises he couldn't keep. His speech was as precise as the gears he cleaned. Clients left with a clear, albeit sometimes disappointing, understanding. But they also left with trust. They knew exactly what they were getting, a result, or a truth. A young apprentice asked why he was so rigid. Wouldn't more hopeful language sell more repairs? Anton looked at him over his loupe. When I promise clarity and patience, I am not just talking about the watch. I am giving the owner clarity, so their mind can stop worrying. I am giving them permission for patience, so their heart can relax. A vague promise creates a ghost, a phantom watch that works perfectly in their imagination. For weeks, they feed that ghost with hope. Then, when the real, imperfect watch is returned, they must mourn the ghost. I have stolen their time, their mental peace. I have made them live in a lie. By speaking with absolute precision, even when the truth is hard, I give them the real thing immediately. They can grieve if they need to, then adjust to reality. I repair their time by not stealing it with false words. This is a masterclass in the Buddhist teaching of truthfulness, Sakha, as a perfection. Anton understood that vague, hopeful, or dishonest speech isn't kindness, it's a form of theft. It steals the listener's opportunity to interface with reality as it is. It forces them to inhabit a painful limbo of uncertainty or false hope. Clear, truthful speech, even when it delivers unwelcome news, is an act of profound respect. It frees the other person's mind. It allows them to align with reality and move forward from there. In our lives, how often do we use vague or sugar-coated language to avoid a difficult moment, inadvertently creating ghosts for others to mourn later? Anton's practice challenges us to value the clarity of truth over the temporary comfort of a pleasant fiction. During the vibrant, chaotic festival season in Rio de Janeiro, an old kite maker, Seu Carlos, had a stall on Copacabana Beach. His kites were magnificent, but his real art was his conversation with children. Kids would come with coins, dreaming of a kite that could touch the clouds. Seu Carlos would ask them not what kite they wanted, but what problem they wanted to send to the wind. A small boy, nervous about a test, might point to a simple diamond kite. Seu Carlos would tie the string, saying, "This one is good for worries. You write the worry on a small piece of paper, tape it to the tail. When the kite flies high, the wind reads it and scatters the letters. The worry loses its shape. You just feel the pull of the sky." A girl, angry at a friend, might choose a fierce dragon kite. "Ah," Seu Carlos would nod. "The anger kite. Strong. But be careful. Anger pulls hard. If you let out too much string too fast, it will dive and crash. You must learn its strength. Fly it high, let the wind take the heat out of it. When it's steady, far up, you can reel it back in, and the anger will have become just energy, just wind in your hands." A teen, heartbroken, would linger over a beautiful, complex box kite. "The sadness kite," Seu Carlos would say softly. "It has many chambers, like a heart. It flies slowly, steadily. It doesn't dance. It just holds space in the sky. Your job is to hold the string, to feel its gentle, persistent tug. That's all. You don't have to make it dance. Just acknowledge it's there, part of the big sky. Eventually, you'll feel ready to bring it down, and it will be lighter." He sold kites as vehicles for emotional alchemy. He gave children a physical ritual and a vocabulary for their inner weather. He didn't tell them not to feel. He gave their feelings a form, a behavior, and a process. He taught them to speak to their emotions through action and metaphor, rather than being spoken by them. Years later, adults would visit him, saying, "Scu Carlos, I still fly a worry kite in my mind when I'm anxious." He'd smile. "Good. The sky of your mind is big enough for all kinds of weather. Just remember you hold the string. You can let it out, or you can reel it in. The words you use about your feeling, 'I am worried,' make you the kite, tossed by the wind. The words, 'I am flying the worry kite,' make you the flyer. Same wind. Different relationship." Scu Carlos was a master of what we might call emotional metaphor speech. He bypassed analytical or dismissive language, "Don't worry, get over it," and offered a participatory narrative that allowed children to relate to their emotions skillfully. The Buddha taught the importance of understanding the nature of feelings, Vedana, without being enslaved by them. Scu Carlos provided a tangible, playful practice for this. He reminds us that we can change our inner dialogue from identification, "I am angry," to observation and relationship, "I am tending to the anger kite." This slight shift in linguistic framing can grant us immense freedom, turning us from victims of our emotional weather into skilled navigators of our inner sky. From the conductor's kind announcements to the baker's ledger, from the watchmaker's precise promise to the kite maker's transformative metaphors, we see that right speech is not a lofty ideal for monks alone. It is a practical, daily art that shapes commutes, commerce, craftsmanship, and childhood. It is the thread that weaves the mundane into the meaningful. Let the gentle pull of these insights guide you, like a kite string connecting you to a clearer sky. We continue, holding the string of Scu Carlos's kite, a reminder that we can have a relationship with our inner weather, rather than being lost in the storm. We now travel to places where speech must navigate not just emotion, but the very boundaries of life, memory, and legacy. In a dimly lit, Old World cafe in New Orleans' French Quarter, there was a waiter everyone called Sticks. He'd worked there for 50 years. The cafe was a place people came with their endings, after a funeral, after a divorce, after a diagnosis, after a dream had clearly died. Sticks had a ritual. He would bring the coffee, black and strong, and set it down without a word. He'd wait. He never asked, "How are you?" He'd simply say, in a voice like gravel and honey, one of three questions, chosen with uncanny accuracy. "What are you carrying that you wish you could leave on this side of the river? What song do you think is playing on the other side? What's the one true thing you know, right now, in this cup?" These questions were his oars, paddling people across the river of their grief. They were designed to bypass the social script of, "I'm fine," and go straight to the mythic scale of the moment. A woman, fresh from burying her mother, might be asked, "What song do you think is playing on the other side?" Instead of crying, she'd think, then smile faintly. A Billie Holiday tune. The kind that makes you sway even when you're sad. Sticks would nod. Then she's swaying. Sip your coffee and sway a little with her. A man who just lost his business might hear, "What are you carrying that you wish you could leave on this side of the river?" He'd sputter about debt, failure. Sticks would listen, then say, "The debt is real. The failure is a story. Leave the story here. I'll sweep it up with the coffee grounds. Take the debt across. It's just numbers. It can't drown you if you don't let it wear the clothes of your worth." The man would leave with a tangible sense of having offloaded a ghost. Sticks explained his method to a young writer who frequented the cafe. People in transition are between stories. The old one is dead. The new one isn't born. Small talk is an insult. Comfort is a lie. The only honest thing is to acknowledge the river. So I ask river questions. I help them articulate the crossing. My words aren't therapy. They're navigation. They don't soften the river, they help people feel the current, find their direction. A true word, spoken into a moment of ending, is a raft. The Buddha taught of the inevitability of dukkha, suffering, stress, the unsatisfactory nature of conditioned existence. Sticks's cafe was a temple to that truth. He didn't offer platitudes to deny the river of loss. He offered questions that helped people orient themselves within it. His speech was right because it was true to the magnitude of the moment, beneficial because it provided a framework for meaning, and compassionate because it honored the depth of the pain without drowning in it. In our own lives or when comforting others, we can learn from Sticks. Instead of offering hollow reassurance, we can ask a river question. We can acknowledge the crossing. This honest, mythic-level speech often provides more genuine solace than any attempt to fix or minimize the pain. In the reading room of a vast, silent library in St. Petersburg, Russia, worked an elderly librarian named Anya. She had a special duty, she tended the unwritten collection. It was not a collection of books, but of index cards. On each card was a title, an author's name, and a one-sentence summary of a book that had lived and died entirely in someone's mind, novels never penned, memoirs never recorded, research never published. People would come to her, often late in life, with these ghosts. A retired engineer would say, "I always meant to write a book about the beauty of bridge stress calculations." Anya would write on a card, "The Poetry of Load-Bearing, An Engineer's Ode to Bridges, by Mikhail Ivanov." Summary. Where others see utility, the author saw grace under pressure. She would file it. She didn't see this as a sad archive. She called it the library of pure intention. She told a young volunteer, "These are not failures. A book written is a birth. A book fully imagined but not written is a different kind of creation. It is a soul's blueprint. It exists in the world of essence, not form. My job is to bear witness. To say, with this card, this mattered. This thought lived. It had a name and a shape in someone's mind. That acknowledgement is a form of completion." She once had a visitor, a famous, prolific novelist who was battling a cruel writer's block. He was despondent. "I have nothing left. My inner library is empty. Anya led him to the unwritten collection. She pulled a random card. The History of Shadows in a Single Room, by Elizaveta Petrova. Summary: How light and time paint stories on walls that no one sees. She pulled another. Recipes for Food You Can't Eat, by a Child. Summary: How to make cake from cloud, soup from laughter, pie from remembered smells. She looked at the novelist. Your block is because you are only listening to the books that shout, the ones that demand to be born. You are ignoring the quiet ones, the unwritten ones that live in you. They are not demanding paper. They are content to be felt. Spend time with them. Honor them. This, she gestured to the cabinets, is not a graveyard. It is a sanctuary for the soul's quietest children. Visit them. Your written books will flow again when you stop fearing the unwritten ones. The novelist sat in the silent room for hours, just holding index cards. He left without writing a word, but his block had lifted. He had been given permission for the unwritten parts of himself to exist without shame. Anya's practice illuminates a profound aspect of inner speech. We often narrate our lives as a story of production and achievement. The unwritten books, our abandoned dreams, our quiet musings, our latent potentials, are often labeled failures or distractions in our internal monologue. Anya reframed them with words of dignity and purpose. She changed the inner vocabulary from "I failed to write" to "I honored an intention." This is a deeply Buddhist concept. The intention, satana, itself is karma. The unwritten book has still shaped the mind that conceived it. By speaking kindly to ourselves about our unwritten chapters, acknowledging them as part of our library of pure intention, we release the guilt and shame that often poison our present moment. We make peace with the fullness of our being, not just the published parts. On the vast, flat prairies of Saskatchewan, an elderly farmer named Henry was known as the best weather watcher for 100 miles. He didn't use satellites. He watched the way the grass bent, the color of the sunset, the behavior of the cows, the smell of the air. But his true skill was in how he reported it. When neighbors would call, anxious about a threatening sky, Henry never said, "A storm is coming." That created panic, a fixed story. Instead, he used process language. "The air is thinking about throwing a fit," he might say. "It's gathering its thoughts over the Rockies. I give it a 40% chance of deciding to argue with us by evening." Or, "The sky is feeling melancholy. It might shed a few tears around noon, but I doubt it'll have a full cry." Or, "On a truly dangerous day, the atmosphere is in a fighting mood. It's loaded its guns with hail. Take cover if it starts shouting." His reports were listened to more seriously than any official forecast because they didn't just give information, they gave a relationship to the information. They framed the weather as a living, changing process with moods, not as a fixed, terrifying fate. This allowed people to prepare without paralyzing fear. They were in conversation with the weather. A young meteorologist from the city came to study his methods, frustrated by the public's misunderstanding of probability percentages. "Why don't you just give them the data?" he asked. Henry pointed to the horizon. "See that cloud? If I say, 70% chance of rain, what does a person feel? Helpless. A victim of a percentage. If I say, the sky is working up its courage to rain, but it hasn't made up its mind yet, what does a person feel? They're in a relationship. They might think, I'll take my chance and hang the laundry, but I'll keep an eye on its courage. Data separates. Story connects. My words don't predict the weather, they prepare the mind for it. A prepared mind can dance with a storm. A frightened mind just gets wet." The young scientist realized Henry wasn't unscientific, he was psychologically scientific. He was accounting for the human reaction to the forecast. This is the essence of skillful means, upaya. The Buddha taught the truth of impermanence, anicca. Henry's weather reports were teachings on anicca. The sky is thinking, feeling, deciding. It is in process, not a fixed entity. By using this language, he helped people internalize impermanence, to relate to change as a natural process rather than a personal threat. We can apply this to our own internal and external forecasts. Instead of saying, disaster is coming, a fixed story, we can say, my mind is preparing a story of worry about that meeting, a process. This slight shift moves us from being victims of our predictions to observers of our own forecasting machinery, giving us far greater freedom and resilience. In the Medina of Fez, Morocco, in a tiny workshop filled with the scent of cedar and glue, worked a mosaicist named Zaid. He created zellige, the intricate geometric mosaics that adorn palaces and mosques. But his specialty was repair. He would be given boxes of shattered tiles from a damaged wall. Hundreds of ceramic pieces, colors faded, edges sharp. His process was slow. He would sort by color, then by shape. But before fitting anything, he would tell the story of the break. Not how it happened, but the story the new pattern would tell. Holding up a blue shard, he'd say to his apprentice, "This blue was the sky in the old pattern. Now it is free. Maybe it becomes the eye of a star in the new one." Holding a white piece, this was the background. Now it can be the center of a flower. He spoke to the fragments as if they had aspirations, as if the break had liberated them to fulfill a new role. Most people see broken tiles and think loss, he taught. I see possibility. The old design was one conversation. The break is the end of that sentence. Now we start a new sentence, using the same words, the same tiles, but in a new order. My job is to listen to what each piece wants to be now. A sharp corner might want to be the point of a diamond. A curved piece might want to be a petal. I don't force. I arrange a conversation between the pieces until a new harmony emerges. The repaired mosaic was never a perfect restoration of the old. It was a new creation that honored the history of the pieces. It was often more beautiful, alive with the visible history of fracture and rebirth. A woman brought him tiles from a courtyard destroyed in an argument between families. The fight was over, but the physical damage remained. She wanted it restored to exactly how it was, to erase the memory. Zaid listened, then said, "I can glue it back to look almost the same. But every time you look, you will see the cracks. You will remember the break. Or, I can make a new design, one that uses every piece, but forms a different beauty. The cracks will become part of the pattern, not flaws to hide. Which memory do you want to live with? The memory of the break, or the memory of the rebirth?" She chose the new design. The resulting mosaic, a stunning burst of color where the old geometric pattern had been, became a symbol of reconciliation for the families. The break was not erased, it was integrated into a more complex, resilient beauty. Zaid's work is the ultimate metaphor for healing through speech after conflict or personal breakage. We often want to glue things back the way they were, to use words to erase the past. But the cracks remain visible in the heart. Zaid's approach is akin to the Buddha's teaching on wisdom and compassion meeting to create a new, wiser reality. It involves taking the shattered pieces of trust, respect, or understanding and not trying to rebuild the old, fragile form. Instead, we can use our words to acknowledge the break, and then to imagine and articulate a new pattern. A new relationship, a new understanding, that incorporates the history of the break into its strength. Our words can be the glue that merely repairs, or they can be the visionary design that transforms fragments into a new, more conscious whole. From the ferryman's river questions to the librarian's unwritten books, from the weather watcher's process language to the mosaicist's vision of rebirth, we see that speech at its most profound helps us navigate endings, honor latent potential, relate to change, and transform brokenness into new beauty. Let these stories settle like tessera in the mosaic of your awareness. Let us continue. The mosaicist's workshop leaves us with a vision. That what is broken can be rearranged into a new, conscious wholeness. We now turn our attention to speech that doesn't just describe or repair, but that actively shapes time, community, and the very sense of the sacred. In the loft of Chartres Cathedral, in France, there lived an old bell ringer named Julien. His family had rung the cathedral's bells for generations. He knew each bell not by its note, but by its voice and its duty. The massive Borden, Emmanuel, was the voice of gravity, of deep time. The higher, quicker bells were the voices of announcement, of celebration, of alarm. Julian's genius was in the spaces between the rings. He never just rang the hour. He would compose short phrases in the air, using silence as part of the music. 3 rings for the Trinity, then a long silence. A quick, joyful cascade for a wedding, then a single, sustained note that faded into the town's noise. For a funeral, a slow, deliberate toll, with the silence after each ring as important as the sound itself, a space for the listener's own grief to resonate. A young, technically brilliant carillonneur came from the conservatory, eager to program complex, rapid melodies. He found Julian's methods antiquated. You could do so much more. Play actual tunes. Entertain. Julian handed him the rope for Emmanuel. Ring it once, he said. The young man pulled, producing a deep, world-shaking bong that vibrated through the stone. Now, Julian said quietly, "Wait. Listen to what the bell does." The note hung, immense, then began to fade. But as the sound decayed, something else became audible, the distant sound of the river, children shouting in the square, the wind in the streets. The silence wasn't empty, it was being filled by the life of the town, ushered in by the bell's departure. The bell, Julian said, is not the music. The bell is the call to attention. The music is what happens in the hearts of the people after the ring, in the silence it creates. My job is not to play tunes. My job is to punctuate time. To create sacred pauses. A rapid melody is just noise. It fills all the spaces. But a single, well-placed ring, it opens a cathedral in the mind. It says, "Stop. Listen. You are here, in this moment, part of something vast." The silence after is where you remember who you are. The young carillonneur understood. He had been thinking of music as something to put into the air. Julian thought of it as something to shape the air around the community's life. His ringing was the ultimate in right speech, beneficial, it oriented people, truthful, it marked real events like death and marriage, and perfectly timed. It used sound to create mindful silence. In our own communication, we can learn from Julian. We often feel we must fill silence, keep talking, keep the melody going. But what if we saw our words as bells? A few clear, intentional words, followed by a respectful silence, can create far more space for understanding and reflection than a flood of continuous talk. The most powerful part of our speech may be the conscious silence we frame it with. In a small hill town in Tuscany, there was no written collection of recipes. Instead, there was an old woman named Grazia, known as the compiler. Her job was not to cook, but to walk. She would visit each household during key festivals, before the grape harvest, before the olive pressing, before the spring feast. She would sit in the kitchen and listen as the matriarch cooked, talking her through the steps. Grazia never wrote down ingredients or times. She wrote down the stories that accompanied the recipes. For Nana Maria's wild boar ragout, she wrote, "You brown the meat when the afternoon light is long on the kitchen floor, like Maria's mother did, thinking of her own father coming home from the hunt. The secret is to add the red wine slowly, as if forgiving someone. You simmer it for 3 hours, the time it takes to tell all the family gossip from the past season. For Signora Rossi's rosemary focaccia," she wrote, "the dough must be kneaded until its size, like Rossi's Nana said, who learned it from a nun who said the sigh was the dough releasing its worldly worries. You press the rosemary into the dimples with your thumb, thinking of one thing you are grateful for with each press." These recipe stories were copied and passed around. When a young bride tried to make the ragout, she wouldn't just follow steps, she would try to recreate the state of mind, the long light, the spirit of forgiveness. The food became a carrier of emotional and cultural meaning, not just nutrition. A food anthropologist came to study, baffled. But this is inefficient. Where are the measurements? The temperatures? Grazia smiled, handing her a slice of the focaccia. The measurement is the sigh. The temperature is the memory. If I write 250 grams of flour, I give a dead thing. If I write knead until it sighs, I give a living relationship. The recipe is not in the ingredients. It is in the attention you bring. My words are meant to teach attention, not control. The food tastes better this way because it is made with a mindful story, not a dead list. The anthropologist tasted the bread. It was the best she'd ever had. She realized Grazia was preserving not dishes, but states of consciousness. She was using speech to transmit a way of being present with the most mundane acts. Grazia's work embodies the Buddhist concept of mindfulness, sati, infused into daily life. She understood that the spirit in which something is done is as important as the action itself. Her recipe stories were instructions for cultivating a specific, wholesome state of mind while cooking. She was using narrative to turn a chore into a meditation, a recipe into a teaching on patience, gratitude, or forgiveness. This challenges how we use speech to instruct or guide. Do we give sterile, technical directions, or do we frame tasks in a way that cultivates a quality of heart? Whether we are teaching a child to tie shoes or a colleague to run a report, we can embed the instruction in a narrative of care, patience, or purpose. The action then becomes imbued with meaning, performed not just correctly, but beautifully. In the pre-dawn bustle of the Tsukiji fish market in Tokyo, in its old location, there was a revered figure known as the sensei. He was not a merchant. He was a retired auctioneer who now served as an informal judge for disputes. Two vendors arguing over a client. A disagreement about the quality of a tuna. They went to the sensei. His method was unique. He would not listen to their arguments first. He would make them stand silently before the subject of the dispute, the prized tuna, the contested stall space. He would then ask them, in turn, to describe only what they saw, in the most precise, physical terms possible. Describe this tuna, he would say to the first. It is a bluefin. Very fat. Good color. More precise, the sensei would command. Speak to the fish. The man would lean in, forced to truly look. The skin has a sheen like a wet stone. The tail fin is slightly ragged, indicating a strong fight. The curve of the belly suggests it fed well in cold waters. Good. Now you, he'd say to the other. The second, following the format, might say, the eye is clear, like cloudless winter sky. The bloodline is a deep crimson, not brown, indicating freshness. There is a small scar behind the gill, perhaps from a parasite long healed. After both had offered purely descriptive observations, the tension would often evaporate. They had been pulled out of the story of mine versus yours, and into a shared reality of objective appreciation. The sensei would then deliver his judgment, which was often simply a synthesis of their own observations. So, you both see a fish of exceptional quality, with minor, irrelevant flaws. Its value is high. Now, discuss its price from that shared seeing, not from your wanting. He explained his philosophy to a young observer, argument is when two stories collide. Truth is what exists before the story. My job is to get them to stop speaking their stories and start speaking the truth of the thing itself. When two people verbally acknowledge the same reality, the conflict over that reality often dissolves. They are no longer fighting over perceptions, they are collaborating on an assessment. I teach them to speak the language of the fish, not the language of the ego. This is a masterful application of the Buddhist teaching on right view. Conflict arises from distorted views, our subjective, desire-colored stories about reality. The sensei forced a return to bare attention, yaniso manasikara, to the suchness of the thing. By making them use precise, neutral, observational language, he stripped away the afflictive narratives of greed and aversion. His courtroom was a training ground for right speech rooted in right view. In our disputes, we can practice this ourselves. Before arguing our position, can we first agree with the other person to describe the situation in neutral, observable facts? The document is late. The budget is X. You said Y at Z time. Establishing this shared, objective ground first can make the subsequent negotiation about needs and solutions infinitely more productive and less personal. In a drought-prone village in Rajasthan, India, the village well was the literal and spiritual center of community. The woman who managed access, the keeper, was named Priya. Her rules were strict but her wisdom was deeper. Each family had a time slot. But Priya's real work happened in the queue. As women waited with their pots, they would talk. Gossip would flare, complaints about other families' water use, old resentments. Priya would listen. When the talk turned toxic, she would not scold. Instead, she would tell a story about the well itself. This well, she might say, was dug by the great-grandfathers of everyone here. They hit water at 50 feet, but they dug to 80. Why? Not for themselves. For the droughts they knew would come for their grandchildren. The extra 30 feet is not water, it is foresight. It is generosity across time. When you speak bitterly of a neighbor, you are drinking from the 50-foot mark. You have enough for today's thirst, but not for the drought of community spirit. When you speak with patience, you drink from the 80-foot mark. You drink from the foresight of your ancestors. Which water will you choose to carry home? Or, if children were squabbling, she'd say, listen to the bucket when it hits the water. That sound is the well saying, ah. It is happy to be of use. Your words can be like that bucket, a vessel that draws something good up, or a stone that sinks and muddies the water for everyone. Her stories, repeated over years, shaped the culture of the queue, and thus the village. The well became not just a source of water, but a temple of speech. People began to self-police. Don't muddy the well became shorthand for, don't gossip. A development worker once came, promising to install electric pumps in every home, making the communal well obsolete. The village council listened, then asked Priya. She said, the pump will bring water to your kitchen. But who will bring wisdom to your waiting? The well is where we learn to share more than water. We learn to share silence, to share stories that hold us together. You can pipe water. You cannot pipe community. If we lose the well, we lose the cue. If we lose the cue, we lose the place where we remember we are one body, drinking from the same deep source. The village voted against the pumps. Priya understood that the structure of daily life creates opportunities for right speech or wrong speech. The well cue was a forced pause, a shared space she skillfully sanctified with narrative. She used the metaphor of the well itself to teach about spiritual depth, shared inheritance, and collective responsibility. She was protecting not just a water source, but a sangha, a community practicing right relationship. Her stories were the gentle guardians of the social fabric. In our modern, efficient, and often isolated lives, we have removed many such cues, the shared, mundane spaces where community is unconsciously built. We might create them intentionally, or at least recognize that every group chat, every meeting, every family meal is a potential well. We can choose, like Priya, to be the keeper who uses words to remind everyone of the deeper, shared source beneath the surface transactions. From the bell ringer's sacred punctuation to the compiler's mindful recipes, from the judge's objective language to the well-keeper's community narratives, we see that speech is a powerful shaper of time, attention, truth, and social cohesion. It is the tool with which we build the invisible architecture of a meaningful life. Let the resonance of these stories ring in the silence of your reflection. Let us continue, the deep, cool wisdom of the village well still echoing within us, a reminder that our words either draw from a shared source or muddy it for all. We now journey into realms where speech encounters the intangible, memory, the future, and the stories we mistake for ourselves. In a small coastal town in Maine, there was an old man named Elias who was known as the town's unofficial chronicler. But he didn't write about events in the newspaper sense. He had a singular, peculiar habit. Every evening, just before sunset, he would walk to the town pier with a small, worn notebook. He would stop one person, a child heading home, a fisherman washing down his boat, the baker taking out trash, and ask them a single question: what was the most beautiful sound you heard today? He would write down their name, the date, and their answer. Molly Evans, age 8. July 12th. The sound of my kitten sneezing. Captain Joe Henderson. August 3rd. The creak of my new nets when they first hit the water. Lydia Chen, Baker. November 22nd. The almost silent whump of dough rising in the proofing box at 4 a.m. He had volumes of these notebooks, stretching back 60 years. They contained no grand history, no scandals, no achievements. They were an archive of fleeting, perceived beauty. People would visit him in times of grief or dullness and ask to hear an entry from a past year. He would read them one, and it was like a key turning in a lock, opening a memory of a day not by its events, but by its essence. A woman mourning her husband asked for the day they met. Elias didn't read a romantic description. He read, Michael Briggs, September 18, 1985. The sound of a sail luffing before catching the wind, just as I saw Sarah walking down the pier. The specific, sensory memory brought her husband back to her more vividly than any love letter could have. A young man, feeling his life was mundane, asked for a random entry. Elias read, Anya Petrova, age 5, February 14, 1972. The squeak of clean snow under brand new boots. The man suddenly saw his own walk to work that morning not as a commute, but as a potential carrier of such a sound. Elias explained his life's work to his granddaughter. History books record what people did. My books record what people noticed. In the end, what we notice is what we have truly lived. A war, a marriage, a business deal, these are just the containers. The life is inside, the sound of a kitten sneezing, the creak of a net. My question teaches people to listen for the container of their day. And by writing it down, I tell them, your noticing matters. It is part of our collective treasure. I am not chronicling the town. I am chronicling its attention. Elias was practicing a form of mindfulness of sense impressions, one of the foundations of Buddhist practice. He was using his speech, his simple, repetitive question, to train his community in mindful listening. He was creating a legacy not of deeds, but of perceptual richness. His archive was a monument to the Buddha's teaching that our suffering or joy is not in the events themselves, but in our relationship to them. In what we choose to attend to. By asking, what was the most beautiful sound, he was programming people's minds to scan each day for beauty, for a positive sensory anchor. This is a profound use of speech, a question that habitually directs attention toward the wholesome, the beautiful, subha, thereby shaping the quality of people's inner lives and memories over decades. On the outskirts of Mexico City, in a sprawling, chaotic junkyard, lived a man everyone called El Profeta. The Prophet. He was the yard's owner. People came to him not for prophecies of the future, but for prophecies of the past, specifically, the future life of their broken objects. A man would bring the smashed remains of his father's classic car, despairing. It's finished, he'd say. El Profeta would walk around the wreck, kicking tires, peering inside. He would not see a corpse. He would see organs for transplant. This chrome bumper, he'd declare, will be the frame for a musician's mirror in a downtown club. This engine block, cleaned, will be a sculpture in a banker's garden, a testament to power at rest. These seat springs will become the skeleton for a child's extraordinary rocking horse. The car is not dead. It is about to be born into a dozen new, interesting lives. Your father's memory won't ride in one car, it will live in a symphony of new stories. Is that not better? A woman would bring a shattered heirloom vase. It's irreparable. El Profeta would sift through the pieces. Ah! See this curve? This will be the prow of a mosaic turtle in a public fountain. This handle will become a pendant. The dust of the rest will be mixed into glaze for new pottery. The vase is becoming landscape, jewelry, and art. Its end is a dispersal of beauty, not an end of beauty. He spoke not of recycling, but of reincarnation. He used his words to perform a kind of verbal alchemy, transforming people's perception of loss and breakage into a vision of generative dispersal. He didn't offer false comfort. He offered a radical shift in perspective, rooted in the tangible reality of his yard, a place where nothing was ever truly wasted, only transformed. A young artist, blocked and disillusioned, came to him with nothing, just to talk. El Profeta listened, then pointed to a pile of shattered safety glass. "Look at that. In a car window, it's a failure. Loose, like that, it's just dangerous trash. But fused under heat and pressure, it becomes a terrazzo floor, sparkling like a night sky. Your broken ideas are that safety glass. They feel like trash. You need to find the heat and pressure, the right project, the right constraint, to fuse them into a new floor you can walk on. Stop mourning the window. Start looking for the kiln." El Profeta's speech was the embodiment of the Buddhist principle of anicca, impermanence, and paticca dependent origination. Nothing has a solid, eternal identity. A car becomes a sculpture, a vase becomes a landscape. Everything arises in dependence on conditions and passes away into new conditions. His prophecies were simply descriptions of this endless process, framed in a way that brought hope and meaning. He taught people to use words that describe transformation, not finality. Instead of "it's over," practice saying, "it is changing form." This linguistic shift can dissolve the grief of endings and open the mind to the creativity inherent in all decay. In a tight-knit, working-class neighborhood in Glasgow, Scotland, there was an elderly widow known as Mrs. McGill. She was the unofficial bestower and arbiter of nicknames. But these weren't cruel or mocking. They were descriptive, protective, and often prophetic. A tall, awkward boy constantly tripping over his feet was not called clumsy. Mrs. McGill called him the lighthouse, because he stands above us all, and his stumbles are just him checking his foundations in a storm. A sharp-tongued, witty girl was not called mouthy. She was the compass, because she always points true north to hypocrisy, even if it pricks. A quiet man who fixed everyone's appliances was the heartbeat. Because you don't notice him until he stops, and then everything goes wrong. These nicknames, once given, stuck. And they changed how people were perceived, and how they perceived themselves. The lighthouse began to stand taller, seeing his height as a protective feature. The compass learned to temper her truth with kindness, living up to the utility of a tool. The heartbeat took quiet pride in his essential role. Mrs. McGill's rule was ironclad. A nickname must be based on a strength, even if the strength was currently a raw, unpolished, or misunderstood trait. She would say, "A name is a story you tell someone about themselves every time you call them. Do you want to tell them a story of lack, or a story of power? A cruel nickname is a curse. A true nickname is a blessing. It sees the seed and names the tree." When a notorious local bully, a young man named Darren, started causing trouble, people expected her to label him the thug or worse. She watched him for weeks. Then, at the community picnic, as he was posturing, she walked up to him and said loudly, "Make way for the guardian. He's just checking the perimeter, making sure we're all safe." Darren was stunned. The label, guardian, hung in the air, utterly at odds with his self-image. But it offered a different script, a different story of strength. His bullying, reframed as misdirected protective energy. Slowly, painfully, he began to live into it, first by actually breaking up a fight, then by walking older neighbors home. The nickname didn't change him overnight, but it gave him a handle on a better version of himself he didn't know how to grasp. Mrs. McGill understood the profound creative power of naming. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from sankhara, mental formations, concepts, and labels we attach to experience. Mrs. McGill was a master of creating wholesome sankharas. She used the act of naming to shape identity, to call forth latent virtue, to reframe flaw as potential. Her speech was an act of metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion, made manifest in a single word. We all name things every day, we label our moods, I'm depressed, our abilities, I'm bad at this. Other people, they're lazy. What if we practiced being gatekeepers of nicknames for ourselves and those around us? What if we consciously chose labels that pointed to strength, potential, or noble intention, even in their rough form? This is not denial, but skillful framing, using speech to water the seeds of the good we wish to see grow. In a hospice in San Francisco, there was a volunteer named Leo with a unique role. He was the scribe of last words. But he didn't just record final utterances. His service was offered earlier. He would sit with the dying and ask, if you could leave one sentence behind, to be etched on the air of this room for those who love you, what would it be? Not an epitaph for stone, but a breath for the living. He would then help them refine it. Not a grand statement, but a true one. A tough old fisherman might finally arrive at, the sea was never the enemy. The calm was. A lifelong gardener. Everything blooms in its own time, especially people. A woman who'd raised 6 children, the noise was the love, made audible. Leo would write it on a beautiful card. Then, in the final days, he would whisper that sentence to visitors as they entered the room. Before you go in, her last sentence is, the noise was the love, made audible. Armed with this, family members would enter not just to say goodbye, but to listen for the love and the noise of their memories. It transformed their grieving. After the person died, Leo would gather the family and read the sentence aloud one last time. He called it, giving them their word. That sentence would become the lens through which the person was remembered, a guiding star in the constellation of their legacy. A young doctor, cynical about touchy-feely care, questioned him. Isn't that imposing? Reducing a life to one sentence? Leo shook his head. I'm not reducing. I'm distilling. A life is a messy, glorious novel. At the end, there's often a desire to find the theme. I help them find it. That one sentence isn't the whole story. It's the key to the story. It helps the living know how to read the novel of that life after the author is gone. It turns grief from a confusing storm into a navigable sea with one true star. My words help them find their star. Leo's work touches the heart of the Buddhist teaching on the importance of intentionality, Satana. And the power of a well-directed mind at the moment of death. While not focusing on rebirth, Leo's practice helped individuals crystallize their life's wisdom and set a powerful, intentional, word seed that would continue to bear fruit in the hearts of their loved ones. It also taught him, and us, about the power of conscious summary. How often do we leave interactions, days, or relationships without a conscious last sentence? What if we practiced Leo's question in smaller ways? After a meaningful conversation, what one sentence would you want to leave hanging in the air? At the end of the day, what sentence distills its lesson? This practice cultivates profound clarity and ensures our speech, even in conclusion, is intentional and beneficial. From the chronicler's beautiful sound to the oracle's vision of transformation, from the gatekeeper's nurturing nicknames to the scribe's distilled wisdom, we see speech as a tool for shaping perception across time. Past, present, and future. It curates memory, transfigures loss, molds identity, and crystallizes legacy. Let these understandings settle like a carefully chosen last sentence in the quiet room of your mind. Let us continue, carrying the scribe's distilled sentence, a single truth meant to guide the heart. We now move from the stillness of endings into the dynamic, often chaotic, flow of modern life, where our words must navigate digital spaces, internal storms, and the delicate art of preserving what is real. In a silent retreat center in the Red Rock Canyons of Utah, there was a teacher named Maeve who led a workshop unlike any other, editing your inner monologue. Participants weren't given writing exercises. They were given headphones connected to a recorder. Their task. For 1 hour, they were to speak aloud every single thought that passed through their mind, no matter how trivial, shameful, or absurd. At first, it was awkward mumbling. Then, as privacy vanished, a torrent emerged. I'm bored, this is stupid, what's for lunch? I wonder if Kevin liked my comment. I'm a fraud for being here, my knee hurts. That person is breathing too loud. I should be more spiritual. After the hour, Maeve had them listen back. People cringed. The endless, repetitive, judgmental, anxious chatter was shocking in its banality and cruelty. Is that really what's in there? Someone whispered, horrified. Maeve then gave the real instruction. Now, she said, you are the editor. Your mind is the first draft. You have the red pen. I want you to go through the recording, and for every sentence, I want you to ask, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If it fails any of these, you have permission to edit it. Not to suppress it, but to rewrite it. A woman who'd repeatedly thought, I'm not good at this, rewrote it to, I am a beginner, and learning is uncomfortable. A man who'd thought, she's judging me, rewrote it to, I am feeling self-conscious. The judgmental, this is stupid, became, I am feeling resistance to this exercise. They then had to speak their edited monologue aloud for another hour. The difference was profound. The room, which had been tense with invisible, hostile energy, grew calm. People's shoulders relaxed. The air felt lighter. Maeve concluded, you are not your first draft. You are the editor. Most people live as prisoners of the unchecked, unfiltered manuscript of their minds. Right speech begins inside. You must learn to edit the story you tell yourself before it becomes the story you tell the world. The red pen is mindfulness. Use it constantly. This exercise is a direct training in the Buddha's teachings on vitakka and vicara, initial and sustained application of thought. Unskillful thoughts lead to unskillful speech and action. Maeve's workshop made the link visceral. By externalizing the inner monologue and then consciously editing it according to the classic triple filter, true, necessary, kind, participants experience the power of right intention shaping right speech at its very source. It teaches us that we are not passive victims of our thoughts, we have the agency, the editorship, to revise the narrative. The practice is to catch the raw thought and, before it fuels emotion or speech, gently edit it towards greater truth, necessity, and kindness. At a remote crossroads in the Scottish Highlands, there stood an ancient inn. The innkeeper, Hamish, was known for more than his stout ale. He was known as the Filter. Travelers from all directions, shepherds from the glens, merchants from the cities, pilgrims heading to holy sites, would gather in the common room, their heads full of the news and moods of the places they'd left. Hamish had one rule: before anyone could share news from the outside world, they had to first share one observation of pure beauty they had witnessed on their journey that day. It could be small, a hawk hanging motionless in the wind over Loch Moor. The way the frost made lace on a spiderweb by the bridge. The smell of peat smoke mixing with rain. Only after this offering of beauty could they share their tidings, the political rumor, the market worry, the personal grievance. The effect was magical. The room's atmosphere was set not by the anxiety or anger of the news, but by the grounded, present-moment beauty that preceded it. The news was then heard within a larger, more stable context, the context of a world that also contained hawks and frost lace. It often lost its sting, its urgency diminished. A young, agitated trader once burst in, eager to tell of a rival's underhanded deal. Hamish stopped him. "Your beauty first, lad." The trader, frustrated, blurted out, "Nothing. It was all mud and rain." "Look harder," Hamish said calmly. "The inn doesn't open for news until it receives its payment of beauty." Grumbling, the trader closed his eyes, recalling his ride. Fine. There was a moment when the rain stopped, and a single beam of sun hit a waterfall, making the whole thing look like falling gold. For about 3 seconds. Hamish nodded, satisfied. "Now, your news." The trader told his story, but the heated edge was gone. The memory of the golden waterfall lingered in his voice. His telling was more factual, less vengeful. Hamish explained to his granddaughter, "The mind is like this room. If you let the first thing in be trouble, the whole space fills with trouble. But if you insist the first guest through the door be beauty, then trouble has to sit down beside beauty. It can't take over." This rule protects the soul of the inn. It teaches people that they carry the weather with them, and they get to decide what front moves in first. Hamishas rule is a beautiful ritualization of the Buddha's teaching on the guards of the senses, Indriya Samvara. We have a choice about what we let in to our minds and subsequently express. By forcing a ritual of positive, sensory input before allowing the expression of potentially afflictive news, Hamish was skillfully guarding the speech and mental environment of his community. He understood that the order of speech matters. We can practice this in our own lives. Before launching into a complaint or sharing anxiety, can we first offer, to ourselves or others, one simple, true observation of beauty or goodness? This resets the mental climate, ensuring that our subsequent words are spoken from a place of relative balance, not from a storm that has already taken over the inner sky. In Amsterdam, there worked a unique therapist, Dr. Lena Visser. She was known as the cartographer of emotional territories. She didn't use traditional talk therapy. Instead, she had clients build physical, interactive maps of their inner conflicts using sand, miniature figures, blocks, and colored strings. A woman trapped in resentment toward her mother wouldn't just talk about it. She'd build Resentment Mountain with craggy gray blocks, place a tiny figure of herself at the bottom, and a figure of her mother at the peak. She'd then describe the weather on the mountain, fog of confusion, lightning strikes of old arguments. Dr. Visser's role was to give her new words for the landscape. Instead of saying, "I'm resentful," Dr. Visser would suggest, try saying, "I am a traveler stranded at the base of Resentment Mountain. The path up is too painful, and I see no other route around." This shifted the client from being the emotion, "I am resentment," to having a relationship with a psychological landscape. Then, Dr. Visser would ask, "If Resentment Mountain is here, what other territories are on your map? Where is the river of peace? The forest of happy childhood memories? The bridge of forgiveness you haven't built yet?" She would have the client build those, too, physically placing them in relation to the mountain. The breakthrough came when the client, looking at the whole map, said, "I don't have to climb the mountain. I could go through this forest here, and maybe find materials to build that bridge from the other side." The physical map and the new vocabulary created a psychological space where solutions became visible. The client wasn't cured of resentment, she simply found she was no longer a stranded traveler, but a cartographer with the power to map new routes. Dr. Visser explained her method. People get stuck because they use the same few, loaded words to describe an entire, complex internal country. I'm angry. I'm anxious. These are like labeling a whole continent danger. It's not useful for navigation. My job is to help them develop a richer, more precise topographic language. Once they can name the specific features, the swamp of self-doubt, the cliff of abandonment, they can start to navigate. They stop being lost in a foggy country called bad feeling and become explorers of their own inner world. This is a profound application of the Buddhist concept of nama, naming, or mental labeling. Unskillful nama creates suffering by collapsing complex realities into simplistic, afflictive concepts. I am depressed. Dr. Visser's cartography teaches skillful nama, breaking down a monolithic emotional state into specific, concrete, and neutral geographical features. This externalizes the problem, creates distance, and empowers the individual. We can practice this ourselves. When a big, overwhelming feeling arises, instead of saying, "I am X," try to map it. There's a tight knot of anxiety in my chest like a boulder. There's a voice of criticism chattering like a monkey in a tree in my mind. This descriptive, metaphorical language gives you handles. You're not the boulder or the monkey, you're the landscape containing them, and thus you have agency. Right speech about our inner world begins with precise, creative, and non-identifying description. Story 35, The Guardian of the Unsaid. In a monastery in the remote mountains of Kyrgyzstan, there was an elder, Atta, who was called the Guardian of the Unsaid. He taught a single, potent practice to his students. Each student was given a small, smooth river stone to carry in their pocket at all times. The stone's purpose was to weigh down the tongue. The rule was this: whenever you felt a strong impulse to speak, to give unsolicited advice, to correct someone, to share a piece of gossip, to defend yourself vigorously, you were to put your hand in your pocket and hold the stone. You were to feel its cool weight, its solidity. And you were to ask this question: will saying this add more light to the room, or just more heat? If the answer was heat, if the speech was primarily to vent, to score points, to elevate yourself, to diminish another, you were to keep hold of the stone and remain silent. The stone absorbed the impulse. If, after holding the stone for a full minute, you still felt the words were necessary to bring light, to clarify, to protect, to genuinely help, you could speak. But you had to first place the stone on the ground before your feet, literally grounding your speech. A student complained, "But Atta, what if it's urgent? What if someone is wrong?" Atta replied, "If it is truly urgent, the stone will not slow you from saving a life. But most of what feels urgent to the ego is not urgent to the soul. The stone teaches you the difference between the itch of your pride and the call of your wisdom. Heat rises, it is agitated. Light illuminates, it is steady. The stone helps you feel the difference in your body." Over time, students found they spoke less, but when they did speak, their words carried more gravity, more respect. The pocket stone practice created a mandatory pause, a somatic checkpoint that bypassed the reactive mind. The monastery became known for its profound, respectful silences and the rare, impactful words that broke them. Atta's practice is a brilliant, tangible application of the Buddhist teaching on restraint, samvara. It employs a physical object as a mindfulness bell for speech, linking the impulsive mind to the grounded body. The question, light or heat, is a masterful criterion for right speech. It moves beyond the standard filters to a more intuitive, energy-based assessment. Is my speech meant to illuminate understanding, light, or to generate emotional friction, heat? Carrying such a touchstone in our awareness, if not in our pocket, can transform our communication. Before speaking, we can mentally hold the stone. We can pause and feel, is this impulse rising from a hot place of reaction, or a clear, cool place of care? That momentary, tactile awareness can prevent a world of unnecessary conflict and regret. From editing our inner monologue to filtering news with beauty, from mapping emotional landscapes to guarding the unsaid with a stone, we see that right speech in the modern age requires internal discipline, conscious ritual, creative reframing, and embodied pause. It is an active, moment-to-moment craftsmanship of our shared reality. Let the weight of the river stone settle your thoughts, preparing you for the final leg of our journey. Let us complete our journey. We have carried the guardian's river stone, a weight to ground our hasty words. We now arrive at the final understanding, that all this practice of speech is not about perfection, but about returning, again and again, to a profound and simple presence. It is about coming home to the voice that speaks from stillness, not from storm. In a secluded hermitage in the Black Forest of Germany, there lived an elder simply known as Brother Lucas. He was nearing the end of his life. His final teaching to the few who sought him was not a discourse, but an invitation. He would lead a visitor into a small, bare room containing only 2 cushions. They would sit. He would say nothing for a long, long time. Then, he would speak a single sentence. It was never about scripture. It was always a simple, concrete observation. The dust motes are dancing in the shaft of light from the high window, he might say. Or, the wind outside has changed its note. It is now brushing the tops of the firs, not their trunks. Or, simply, your own breath, in this moment, is the only prayer this room requires. Then he would fall silent again. Visitors often left confused, expecting deep philosophy. But those who stayed with the experience found something extraordinary happening. His one sentence, spoken from deep stillness, acted like a tuning fork. It didn't impart information, it calibrated attention. It pulled the listener's awareness completely into the present, into the sheer isness of the room. In the silence that followed his words, the visitor's own mental chatter would grow quiet, and they would begin to hear, truly hear, the world he had just named, the dance of the dust, the song of the wind, the miracle of their own breath. A young monk, frustrated, once asked, "Brother Lucas, is that all? A remark about dust? Where is the teaching?" The old man smiled. "The teaching is not in my words. The teaching is in the quality of listening my words create. Most people listen to words to extract meaning, to get something. I use words to point to the silence around the meaning. I use a sentence like a finger pointing at the moon. The fool looks at the finger. The wise one looks at the moon. My words are the finger. The moon is this moment, exactly as it is. I am not teaching you what to think. I am giving you an opportunity to remember how to be." Brother Lucas embodied the ultimate purpose of speech in a spiritual context, not to fill the mind with concepts, but to empty it into experience. His speech was the gentlest of guides back to the present, to mindfulness, sati. He demonstrated that the most powerful words are often those that serve as bridges to wordless awareness. They are not conclusions, but openings. In our own communication, we can aspire to this. Can our words, even in everyday conversation, occasionally serve as gentle, tuning forks? Can we say something so simple and true that it brings the other person, and ourselves, back into shared presence. That sunset is breathtaking. I can hear the rain slowing. This is speech as a sacred pointer, not a possession. In a small coastal village in Portugal, every evening just after sundown, the elderly women of the village would gather on a particular bench overlooking the sea. They called it weaving the day's end. They did not knit. They spoke. But they followed a strict, traditional pattern. The eldest would begin. She would not talk about her own day. She would describe one small, good thing she had witnessed someone else in the village do or say that day. I saw young Marco stop to help Senora Silva carry her groceries up the steep street, she might say. The next woman would add another. I heard Anna tell her crying child a story that turned his tears to laughter. The next, I felt the warmth in Fernando's voice when he greeted me this morning, though he himself is in pain. Around the circle they would go, each contributing one observed act of kindness, patience, or beauty performed by another. They did not analyze or praise excessively. They simply reported, like noting the colors in a tapestry. By the end, a vivid, collective portrait of the day's goodness had been woven from their shared testimony. The worries, aches, and frustrations of their own lives were not denied, but they were placed within this larger, warmer fabric of communal grace. A sociologist studying community well-being was astonished by the practice. "You are creating a positive bias," he told them. "You are filtering reality." The eldest woman nodded. "Of course we are. The mind is a loom. It will weave with whatever threads you give it. If we give it threads of complaint and worry, we weave a heavy, dark cloth to wear through the night. If we give it threads of others' goodness, we weave a cloak of connection and gratitude. We choose our threads before we sleep. This is how we keep the village's heart warm. We are not ignoring the dark threads. We are just choosing not to use them for our evening's weaving." This ritual is a powerful, communal practice of right speech and right mindfulness. It consciously directs attention, manasikara, toward the wholesome, kusala. It is a verbal practice of mudita, sympathetic joy, finding happiness in the virtue of others. By making it a rule to speak only of others' good acts, the women were training their own minds to look for kindness, thereby increasing its presence in their own perception and, likely, in their own subsequent actions. It is the opposite of gossip, it is grace-sharing. Imagine ending your own day with this practice, alone or with loved ones. Mentally weaving with threads of witnessed goodness, rather than replaying threads of grievance. This speech practice doesn't change the events of the day, it changes the emotional and mental fabric you wrap yourself in as you move from day into night. In a region with a long history of conflict between two ethnic communities, a young linguist named Kaylee had a simple, radical idea. She noticed that while the group spoke different languages, there was one word that was phonetically identical in both, and had nearly the same meaning, the word for bread. In one language, pain. In the other, pan. It was a small, shared sonic island. She initiated a project called the Oven of Pain/Pan. She convinced elders from both communities to build a communal wood-fired oven in a neutral, derelict lot on the old border. The rule was simple: anyone could come to bake, but to use the oven, you had to teach someone from the other community one word, just one, about bread in your language, and learn one in return. A woman from one side would say, "We call the crust corica." It means little bark. A man from the other would teach, "We call the soft inside mrvika," which means little crumb. They would then bake together. The conversations didn't start with politics or history. They started with the heat of the oven, the feel of the dough, and the shared words for its parts. They shared stories of grandmothers baking, of bread at weddings, of bread during wartime scarcity. Over months, the lot around the oven transformed. A bench was built. Then a roof. Children came, learning the words for flour, yeast, heat. They played while their parents talked. The oven became a bridge built not of stone, but of shared, mundane vocabulary and the universal, nourishing result. The old, poisonous political words began to lose their power in this space, drowned out by the gentle, specific language of a shared craft and a shared hunger. Kaylee later wrote, "We didn't build peace by negotiating differences. We built it by cultivating a tiny, shared language around a shared need." The big, divisive words, border, enemy, justice, could only thrive in the soil of separation. We planted a new soil, with the humble seeds of crust and crumb. When you break bread you have named together, it is harder to see the other as a stranger. The common word became the first brick in a new bridge. This story is a stunning real-world application of the Buddhist teaching on samavaka, right speech. As a force for harmony, samaga. Kaylee understood that conflict is sustained by a narrative built on divisive language. She didn't try to argue against that narrative, she sidestepped it entirely by co-creating a new, tiny, shared lexicon around a neutral, life-affirming activity. She used speech at its most basic, connective level, naming, to rebuild human connection from the ground up. It teaches us that in any division, large or small, we can look for the common word, the shared point of interest, and begin to build a new, positive shared language there. This is speech as bridge building, literally and metaphorically. In a tradition among nomadic storytellers of the Mongolian steppe, the most revered elder is not the one who knows the most stories, but the one known as the keeper of the first page. This person holds a single, blank page in a leather binder. At the great annual gathering, tribes would share the epic tales of their year, journeys, trials, discoveries. But at the end of the gathering, the keeper would stand. He would not recount a story. He would offer a single sentence meant to be the first line of the collective story of the year to come. It was always framed as an intention, an opening. One year, after a harsh winter, let the story of this year be, they remembered the cold, and so they built their fires in a circle. After a year of conflict, let the story begin, the argument was left in the valley, and the song was carried up the mountain. After a year of plenty, the first words are, in the time of abundance, they learned to give with open hands. This sentence would then be taken by each tribe, becoming the thematic seed for their own stories in the coming months. It set the tone, the intention. It was a narrative compass. A young anthropologist asked the keeper, "But what if the year brings disaster? Your first line will be wrong." The keeper shook his head. The first line does not predict. It prepares. It plants a seed in the mind of how to meet whatever comes. If the year brings disaster, and our first line is, "They remembered the cold and built their fires in a circle," then in disaster, we will remember to gather, to share warmth. The first line is not a description of the future. It is a tool for shaping our response to it. We are the authors. We choose how our story begins. This tradition encapsulates the ultimate creative power of speech. It is the practice of setting intention, cetana, through narrative. The Buddha taught that intention is karma. The keeper of the first page was guiding the collective karma of the tribes by offering an intentional, skillful, first line for their shared narrative. We can practice this personally. Each morning, or at the start of any endeavor, we can consciously choose a first line for the story of our day. Not a goal, but a tone. Today's story is one of patient curiosity. This meeting begins with a spirit of collaboration. This mental speech act frames our perception and primes our responses, making us active authors of our experience rather than passive characters in a random plot. And so, dear listener, our long journey through stories. From weavers and watchmakers, ferrymen and cartographers, bell ringers and bridge builders, comes to a close. We have sat in 100 different spaces, under countless skies, and learned the same truth from 100 different mouths. Your speech is not a minor function. It is a sacred architecture. With every word, you are either building a temple or a prison. You are weaving a tapestry of connection or a net of entanglement. You are planting a garden or scattering thorns. You are ringing a bell that calls to peace or sounding an alarm that breeds fear. The Buddha gave this force more weight than any other action because he saw it for what it is, the most frequent, most powerful creative act of the human being. You are, in every moment, speaking your world into existence. The internal words shape the landscape of your mind. The external words shape the climate of your relationships. You do not need to be perfect. The practice is not a life sentence of rigid control. It is a gentle, lifelong returning. It is the pause. It is the breath before the word. It is the touch of the river stone in your pocket. It is the question, is this necessary? Is it true? Is it kind? Does it bring light, or only heat? When you forget, as you will, simply begin again. Return to the breath. Return to the listening. Return to the intention of goodwill. You now carry these stories. The water-keeper's channel, the clockmaker's respectful touch, the ferryman's river questions, the mosaicist's golden seams. Let them live in you not as rules, but as echoes. As mirrors. As friends. As you move from this listening space back into the stream of your life, take one thing with you. Let it be this. You are the keeper of an invisible loom, a silent bell, a seed vault of immense power. Weave, ring, and plant with conscious love. The world you speak is the world you will live in. May your words be seeds of peace. May your silence be deep and fertile. May your listening be a gift to all who speak to you. Thank you for walking this path tonight. This is Monk's Temple. Until we meet again, may you speak and listen from the heart of peace. Good night.